Welcome back to the best division in football with your boys Awthentik and The Beard. The best television show not on television. Y'all know what it is, man. Big shout out to the Giants Nation, man, for showing up to that Giant overreaction on Monday. It was extremely lit. I definitely recommend you go back and check that one out if you missed that one on Monday. And salute to them Giants, man. We got 3 wins in the NFC East this week, man. Even the Beard's Washington Commanders got the W. Fairly ugly on Thursday night, but a win is a win is a win. And the Eagles ended up taking care of business against the Dallas Cowboys at home as well, man. That was a good game in the fourth quarter. Started off a little bit slow for the Cowboys, but they found themselves back in that game. We're going to talk about all 3 of these matchups, man, on this show. We're going to try to get y'all out of here on time. Y'all know what it is, man. Big shout out to the family in the chat, the people that got here bright and early, 7 p.m. sharp. We've been trying to be on time. You know what I'm saying? They said Haitians is late. I don't think that's the case, but we're going to try to be 5 minutes early, like my man Tom Coughlin would appreciate. So y'all know what it is, man. Let me bring in the best co-host in the whole damn country, man. The strong side to my left side, man. You a fool if you don't know about this brother right here. Big shout out to the homie, man. The Beard one time is in the building. I know you feeling good. You feeling a lot better than last week, right?
I was feeling good for about 48 hours, and then it's just like, you know, like you just can't have anything good when you're a Washington Commanders fan.
Facts.
Wentz's finger broke, fractured. Heineke now. And then
I know you're not liking that. I know you're not liking
Snyder, the Dan Snyder story, and then just now the Irsay coming out saying that Dan Snyder there's enough votes for Dan Snyder to probably get voted out. Like, it's just, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing, but it's just like
I was going to ask you, how, like, as a Commanders fan, how does that make you feel? You know all the dirt and all the turmoil that's been happening in the front office of that organization. Like, how does it make you feel that things are kind of starting to, come to the surface here now for Dan Snyder?
But I mean, I don't feel anything because I feel like it's been going on for so long. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I learned a long time ago to not get my hopes up about Daniel Snyder selling the team or being forced to sell the team. You know,
I like how you call him Daniel. They always call him Dan Snyder. By the way, when they showed him, I think that was Thursday night. They showed him in the press box. He looked wrung out, bro. That man looked like he needed a rehab and a job application.
I tweeted that he looked like a bad guy in a serious Adam Sandler movie. That's what.
Yeah, facts.
That's
facts.
what he looked like
what,
to
what
me.
What movie comes to mind though when you think?
I mean, I feel like he would have been a character in Hidden Gems. No, a serious Adam Sandler movie. But no, it's just like it. I mean, to hear Jim Irsay say that, now, obviously, this is coming out of Jim Irsay's mouth. We already know he got his own baggage. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, do you really take it for a grain of salt? But nonetheless, that's the second, big, kind of bomb. Because for an owner to come out and say that publicly, no matter who it is kind of a big deal. And then Al Michaels, during the broadcast, said something about it, which is like, very you don't not necessarily tread in those sort of waters as a broadcaster on a live broadcast. And he did that, which was kind of whoa. So those two things combined with the stories that are coming out now, they just leaked a story that said that the lawyers for the women who have filed suit against Daniel Snyder have said that the NFL is at fault for leaking information about the witnesses. So now, apparently, Daniel Snyder has hired PIs and who else knows, some of his, his goons to go intimidate these witnesses. So it's this whole ordeal. And it's just it's always something with Washington. And, it's to see that and, after a win, it just kind of, in the way that the win was, even though for me it didn't bother me because a win is a win. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We're 2-4.
You lost 4 straight. I want to say it was.
Yeah. And think about it. 2-4. We're swimming. We're swimming.
Giants know all about that. A little bit of hope. You got some hope for sure.
I saw shout out to Ref the District. They tweeted this and I had to run with it. I think it was 21 out of the 32 NFL teams right now either have 2 or 3 wins.
Yeah, I was watching Colin earlier today, and they were talking about that. And even Aaron Rodgers talked about it on Pat McAfee today. Like, a ton of teams are in that melting pot of like 3-3, 2-4, especially in the NFC, man. So, I mean, there's a lot of room here, man. With the Giants, the way we've been playing, most fans are saying, oh, Giants will sneak in and get the wild card because they're expecting Philadelphia to win the division. We're going to get to that later on in that game. But at the same time, I mean, there's not a lot of good records in the NFC right now. You got the Eagles, you got the Giants at 5-1, you got the Vikings at 5-1. I think that's really it as far as the cream of the crop.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like I saw your tweet about the power rankings, right? Oh, and before we even did our first episode this season, I had, Awthentik and I were doing a little testing, getting things ready. And I had asked him, I said, how many teams from the NFC would you put in your top 10 power rankings? Yep. And it was like, initially,
none, maybe. I think when you were telling me about that, you had zero.
I had Tampa Bay and the Rams were like my only two teams. And then I was like, San Francisco, Green Bay, maybe Dallas, Philly, kind of like on the edge. But there was just so many other teams in the AFC. And now to kind of see them like, it be more dominant NFC in the top of the power rankings is kind of interesting. I mean, I personally, the Vikings, the Vikings haven't really
5-1.
They haven't beaten anybody, and they've played really, they haven't played really good football. But that being said, that offense can go off at any point in time when you have Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. I think the Giants are a better 5-1 team right now than the Minnesota Vikings are. So, obviously Buffalo.
You think the Giants are a better 5-1 team?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The only reason why I would like pump the brakes on it is simply like what you said. Their offense is so high powered that if they get clicking, they can look a lot better than our offense, and I think position by position on the offense as well too. Like, you match up those wide receivers to what Daniel Jones and the New York Giants are working with, it's not even close, And offensive line, we know the Giants' offensive line is improved, but it's not that great. I like Dalvin Cook at the running back position when he can stay healthy, and I like their depth at the running back position. I've liked Madison really for a long while, man. So, and what you call it is back in the mix with them too. I'm forgetting the tight end's name.
Irv Smith Jr.
Irv Smith Jr. Yeah, he's been playing well as well.
Yeah, coming off of an injury, so it'll be interesting to see how things start to evolve. We got bye weeks obviously now, so it's gonna be interesting. But definitely we're riding high here at Awthentik and The Beard because the Giants won, Washington won. You know what I'm saying? So we in the mix. We here. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna enjoy ourselves, and then obviously we're gonna talk about, how bad the Washington football team is. That's just all there is to it. But let's go ahead and say some shout-outs to the lovely people in the chat, and then we will get this show a rocking and a rolling. Big shout-out to the first person in the building tonight, which was Awthentik.
You already know, man. I had to beat Jameson to the chat. You see the little emoji with the little eye, like, where you at, J-Mo? Where you at, dog?
Big shout-out to Coach Taylor. Appreciate you stopping by, Jameson. As always, Waterfly, who put that Heineke voodoo on me and my Washington Commanders, says, you know what time it is, $9.99 Heineke time. Shout out to Waterfly. Appreciate
I noticed
you,
that
brother.
even when, Waterfly would ask you to, give out some $9.99, $99, $99.99s, you was ending it without the Heineke.
No, if it was in there, I said it. I did it with the same little, high pitch and everything.
I'm sensing some Heineke hatred, man. I'm sensing it a little bit. I feel like you don't have as much faith in your second quarterback as you do in your first.
No, I don't, but I'm still going to root for the guy. I mean, Thursday's going to – I got to get a little bit of that in tonight because Thursday, we're so bang, 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 boom, bang.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? I don't got a lot of time to talk my, but we're going to see. Big shout-out to Roman in the building. Appreciate you as always. And you got to give a big shout-out to the legendary. He was a legend before he even became a legendary. Shout out to Lucas. Checking in from Australia.
My God,
Big love to Lucas. Say both teams won. Let's keep this magic vibe trucking. AATB family.
Yeah, if y'all missed it on Monday, Lucas made two extremely generous donations that had me floored. Your boy Awthentik almost teared up on the show, man.
I mean, I had to pop backstage. I was like,
I saw you and I was like, why is the beard backstage right now?
Big shout out to Lucas, man. We appreciate you. Shout out to Stan. I see you in the building, Stan. Michael Knight. I think Authentic has to do the Michael Knight
Michael
intros.
Michael Knight. It's my man right there. Shout out Michael Knight one time in the building.
Shout out to one of our resident Cowboy fans. What's going on? Kai001 in the building. Appreciate you as always. Edward Squires, everybody's favorite GQ name on YouTube. Alvaro checking in from Chile. Appreciate you, Alvaro, as always.
Time, man.
Big David in the building. What's going on, David? I see you, Duran. I see you, Thigh66. D-Lord, bruh, in the building. What's going on, Simon?
Is that the taste of victory?
That might be. That might be. Simon's in the building. Zach's in the building. Mr. Mini Guys. Yo, 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 yo. Denzio is in the building. Yes, Washington did sign Jake Fromm to the practice squad today.
I did see that. People were laughing at that.
Big shout out to Marge, always dropping the Marge bombs in the chat. We appreciate you as always.
Big shout out to Marge.
Sean G is in the building. Big shout out to Zach for the $1.99 super chat. Says NFC East, best division in football. Especially Washington? I think that's what that says.
I like how you tried to put a spin on that. I like that. I'm digging that.
Hey, big shout out to the entertainer talking sports in the building.
What up, fam?
Appreciate you stopping by as always. Flemdog says, finally able to catch y'all live. We appreciate that.
I forgot about Flemdog, man. I hope all is well, Flemdog. Ain't seen you in a minute, man. Them Giants is playing some great football right now, man. A lot to be happy about in New York. A lot to be happy about.
Big shout out to the homie Paulie. Shout out Paulie. Paulie shouted out Authentic and the Beard on the radio the other day.
Sure did,
big shout out to Paulie. Says Zach, don't count your chickens before they hatch. Except is the word, bruh.
I like that. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. I like that. I like that.
Shout out to everybody who is in the building. We appreciate you guys. Shout out to everybody who's watching us on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Don't forget to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Authentic and the Beard, best television show not on television, is live. Oh, here we go. Big shout out to Paulie. $2 super chat. Says Commanders recap. Heineke hustling.
Okay, Paulie. I seen people reviving that picture of Chase Young, you know, pointing at the back of the jersey like he is him. We're going to find out, man. I like Heineke, and this is a good spot for him, I think, man. A lot of fans calling for him. Let's see what he does under some pressure here, man, and see if he can, you know, elevate the play of the Washington Commanders. Because you never know, man. Sometimes it's like one quarterback might be better, but the team might rally around the other guy more. You never know. So it's going to be, you know, very interesting to see Taylor Heineke get back in the game.
I hope the guy, you know, does well. He's the quarterback for my team. He better play well.
I know, you know, but you know, I'm good at judgment of character, right? Like I can sense when it like bothers somebody just a little bit, right? I'll give you an example. I went over there to Tim Online Big Blue right the other day, and I was just popping in his stream, and you know me, I'll be playing devil's advocate, so I'm in there asking questions and whatnot, right? He seemed like he was defensive about every Daniel Jones question I asked, bro. And I could just, you know, the tone, I could sense it. You know, your face has a tone as well, right? It's like,
oh, yeah, it's peach.
No, I don't mean that kind of tone. I mean this kind of tone. But, yeah, I sense the same thing from another Tim, you know, my co-host here, that he's a little bit upset about Heineke getting the, you know, the starting job, especially to an injury at that. Everybody was calling for it, and now Carson Wentz got the sideways thumb. You know, I don't mean to point the finger at you, no pun intended, but you look a little upset about the Taylor Heineke needs.
I mean, I'm not upset, okay? I'm just, you know, I'm frustrated, okay? I'm frustrated. But what are we going to do? There's nothing we can do. It's just like, you know, so hopefully, you know, there'll be a lot of, you know, middle of the field throws, you know, some runs.
I know, man. You know, I'm starting to, you know, remember last year we talked about the whole winning football thing and all that. And I was like, I don't know, man. Taylor Heineke looking all right, man. I think he could be like, you know, serviceable starter in this league. You were like, Authentic. He's a backup at best, man. He's a backup at best. And I tried to cop for him a little bit. You kind of convinced me. I kind of hopped off the Heineke train because you kind of convinced me. Like, he's not the guy, you know, can't throw it downfield. Maybe throwing it down the field is not most important. Maybe just getting, you know, small chunks of yards is what's most important. We're going to find out, though. I'll tell you this. It's like somebody telling you the restaurant down the street is better than your restaurant, right? You know what you got to tell them? Well, go eat that shit then.
Yeah.
They're going to get a taste of Taylor Heineke this week, and they'll find out. If he balls out, I know that's not going to be too good for you over here on Authentic.
Nah, it will be good. I mean, listen, if he balls out and we win, I ain't mad. But, you know. If
he balls out and y'all lose, and it's not his fault?
It's going to be his fault. You want to know why it's going to be his fault? Because if Carson Wentz was playing quarterback and he balled out, we lost, it'd be Carson Wentz's fault.
You're right about that.
So you got to treat the quarterback the same way. You know what I'm saying? So it's
we talked about it off air a little bit, man. It's like the quarterback position is kind of shifting a little bit. There's some guys out here, you know, making some waves here, man, that aren't necessarily doing it in the stat box. We know Daniel Jones is one of them. We talked about Marcus Mariota being another one, man. Marcus Mariota is playing some really good football right now, some tough football. Geno Smith out there doing a couple of things, man. You know, it's a lot of quarterbacks out here excelling. I saw some Denver Broncos fans saying they were better off with Drew Lock.
See, that's just frustration. Can you imagine? Look, as bad as it is with Wentz, bro, the Broncos gave up like 3 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
And
a boatload of money.
And a bag.
Yeah.
There's no way that coach makes it through the year.
You don't think he's going to make it through the year?
I don't think he makes it through the year. If he does make it through the year, he still gets fired at the end of the year.
The most disheartening part about the Broncos is the defense is balling out, man. And
they're really good defensively.
Score, man. It's so bad over there, man. Like I'm starting to feel bad for Russ because I wanted him to get that extra chance yesterday to try to go win a game. And, you know, I don't like seeing people down in the pits that are already proven. When you a guy that's like, you really haven't proved much in this league, all right, you deserve all the criticism, all the flack, all of that. But for a guy like Russ, bro, we went 8 seasons without even having a losing record over there in Seattle, and then you come over here and it's hell right now in Denver. You know, I think people need to cut him a little bit of slack. The offense isn't moving just because of him, but he's a big part and a big reason why they're not moving the ball. And you see the frustrations from all the wide receivers over there.
And, you know, there's a lot of people who are ex-teammates of his that are like, you know, throwing a little bit of shade on.
I did see that. And I think
then,
that was unintentional. You know, it wasn't quite like linebacker that we had in New York, Casillas, who was talking about Eli Apple this past week. He pretty much like confirmed everything that everybody thought about Eli Apple. Like, dude's a POS kind of. Like, straight up. You know, but I did see the comments about Russ, you know, teammates saying that, like, just to even have a conversation with him, you had to, like, go through somebody that knew somebody to then actually get to talk to Russell Wilson. So, I mean, that's not a good relationship to have with your teammates in your locker room. You know, it's I can understand the frustrations like that we're seeing from other veteran quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, who was blowing up on the sidelines this past weekend. I had my popcorn ready for that. I thought that was amazing because for people that don't really play ball, they don't know about those vibes and how those things can happen on the sideline. The Beard has been on multiple teams with me. That's me. I'm that guy. The way you saw Tom Brady on the sidelines, I am that guy when it comes to football. I'm screaming, we gonna do whatever we can to get this dub. It ain't nothing personal though. You know, it's not.
I'm more like Antonio Brown in the Jets game. That's
Robbie Anderson last week with the Panthers.
Big shout out to Sebastian for the $1.99 super chat. Says Daniel Jones greater than Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke greater than Russell Wilson.
Ooh, I like the first part, but I don't know about that second part, man. That second part might be a little bit of a reach. Man, I love that. I don't know if you know about that GIF. I've been using this GIF a lot lately. Like
the one where he's on the toilet.
That's great.
I like that
because it's like, you know, you're full of shit because you're sitting on the toilet and he's reaching for the paper. I think it's just amazing. But Taylor Heineke, that might be a little bit of a stretch right there. Daniel Jones right now at the moment, yeah. You know, I borrowed a little bit of conversation from the Giant Overreaction just the other day. Tweeted out the other, what was that, like yesterday or 2 days ago, I tweeted out Daniel Jones is playing football like a top 10 quarterback. And people were like, how do you have him as a top 10, blah, blah, blah. People all diving into my mentions, talking all. I'm like, he's just playing like a top 10 quarterback. And on that show, we actually tried to list all the quarterbacks we would put ahead of him right now. Russell Wilson wasn't on that list.
I mean, you can put him on that list right now.
Yeah, he's playing bad ball right now.
You can. I mean, he's right there. He's right there, that 10-11 mark. You know what I'm saying? Daniel Jones. But, you know.
Yeah, Daniel, realistically, if I had to rank him right now, I'd probably put him at like 11 or 12. But some of those guys that are ahead of him, like even Dak Prescott is knocked out right now, so I didn't have him in there as well.
Yeah.
I just think there's not a lot of good quarterback play around the league right now. Daniel Jones is playing some good ball. So I kind of, I didn't enter the conversation on Monday on the overreaction thinking, hey, Daniel Jones is a top 10 quarterback. But when you
broke it down,
yeah, you start looking around the league and, start looking at these stats and stuff. And, you also got to factor in the weapons that some of these guys are working with. Daniel Jones, he's not working with a number 1 wide receiver. He's not working with a number 2 wide receiver. Probably not working with a number 3 wide receiver. Let's just keep it funky and just call a spade a spade. That just is what it is. So, for me, I'm looking at Daniel Jones, and he looks like he's getting a little bit more comfortable in this offense, man. The league better be, keep that eye to the side a little bit because Daniel Jones is on y'all heels right now. He's playing some good football.
And what's really funny is before we move into the first game is we talked about this a little bit either on the parlay or last week about how Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have kind of screwed it up for the rest of the league when it comes to quarterbacks because everybody's kind of chasing the unicorn now. Mm-hmm. And it's just the drop off from Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes is just and you have Jalen Hurts and Tua and Burrow and Herbert who are that next wave who I've been impressed with thoroughly, and I think that they are all going to be really, really good quarterbacks. But the consistency in which Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes play is just insane. You don't see them have the type of games that Justin Herbert had, or the first week that game that Joe Burrow had, or
I'm glad you brought up those names because I feel like people are very quick to throw people into that category when they play well. Joe Burrow's a guy who I don't think is in that same class as a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Them two is 2 spots reserved for them. That's like Leonidas and Xerxes.
It's like how Manning and Brady were when Manning and Brady were doing their thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what other quarterbacks were around. You had Aaron Rodgers who was, doing some things.
Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees was kind of towards the back end of Manning and Brady, really.
Yeah, but you're right. We can't just thrust quarterbacks into that greatness kind of category that fast. There's a lot of quarterbacks in that Dak Prescott range, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I also think that people get a little bit too hung up on Super Bowl caliber roster or Super Bowl kind of talent, right? People think now that when you get a quarterback, this guy has to be that unicorn that can get you to a Super Bowl or he has no value, which we're starting to see around the league, at least early on. And me and you both cut from OG cloth. We watched a lot of 90s football where a lot of average quarterbacks did a lot. We saw a lot of average guys win Super Bowls. I even mentioned on the podcast the other day that Troy Aikman is probably the best game manager we ever saw when Big Pat popped up and talked about, Troy Aikman has never had a season, or he only had one season over 20 touchdowns, which you look at that and you think damn, Troy Aikman's a Hall of Famer, and he only had one season of over 20. There were some unicorns back in the 80s and early 90s as well, too, like Dan Marino. There wasn't people putting up those kind of numbers. Yeah. Even Joe Montana, I went and looked up Joe Montana's stats, and he had I think 5 or 6 seasons over 20 touchdowns, which you look at that in today's day and age, and you're like, it really ain't nothing. To just 4 or 5 seasons, what did Joe Montana play? A good 13, maybe 14.
And he played with arguably the best wide receiver of all time.
Ain't no argument. Jerry Rice is the best wide receiver ever. Just go look at the numbers. I know a lot of people like to say stats don't matter, but when you could take 2 of the best wide receivers ever and combine their stats and put them up there with Jerry Rice, and Jerry Rice would still hold his own, then stats got to matter just a little bit.
Yeah, especially in that era of football, which was nothing to what it is now. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty wild stuff. I mean, look, Matt Ryan's leading the league in passing yards right now.
Is he now? I know he came into the week at number 4. It surprised me. I was like,
and he just passed Dan Marino, I think, on the yards list or a touchdowns list. I can't remember.
Yeah, and I don't want to throw dirt on Matt Ryan because this year has not been that good. Yeah. But if Matt Ryan would have got that Super Bowl win against the Patriots, people would be looking at him a lot different. Yeah, I do think he'd be a Hall of Fame quarterback because his stats was always good.
Yeah, he's been a really good. He's one of those. He's not a game manager, but he's not elite. He's right in that mix. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah, but that was a good little quarterback talk to warm things up for everybody.
I know we need to do that more often, man. Chat. We definitely need to do that more often. But let's get into this this first matchup, man. The Cowboys travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. All right, man. Dallas Cowboys, man, ended up taking the L to them Philadelphia Eagles, man, who improved to, 6-0 now, man? That is ridiculous, man. Eagles got out to an extremely early lead in this game, man. The Cowboys trailed 20-3 at the half. The Cowboys end up scoring 17 straight points after trailing 20-0, actually, in the second quarter. And Cooper Rush cut the lead to 20-17 with a touchdown pass to tight end Jake Ferguson. In the end, that was not enough for the Dallas Cowboys, man. I think that slow start really just limited their chances of winning this game. They end up losing 26-17. And, man, Dallas was horrible when it comes to the penalties, man. 72 yards on just penalties, man. 10 penalties in the game. Jalen Hurts, man, probably not his best game, but he got it done, man. I always talk about those gritty performances, man. Sometimes you're going to need those, especially against a quality defense like the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Hurts was 15 of 25, 64.9 QBR. That's the number that kind of surprised me a little bit. He was sacked 4 times on the day, had 155 passing yards. That's kind of looking like a Daniel Jones game, and people not expecting that from a guy like Jalen Hurts. Didn't have too much on the ground either. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That 0 interceptions has been a theme with Jalen Hurts, man. He's figuring out ways to take care of the ball. On the opposite end, man, Dallas Cowboys really couldn't get it going, man. Cooper Rush, this was his worst game for sure. 18 of 38 for 181 yards, 3 major interceptions in this game, man. Seemed like Zeke Elliott was probably the only thing that the Dallas Cowboys offense really had going in this game. He had 13 carries for 81 yards and 1 touchdown. I don't understand why the Cowboys got away from the run in this game. I know you get down, but the Beard always talks about this. It don't matter what the score is, you got to keep running that rock. Tony Pollard had 11 for 44 yards. Zeke Elliott was averaging 6.3 yards per carry, and for some reason they just abandoned the run in this game. And if you look at the Giants' formula of how they stopped Lamar Jackson, a lot of it had to do with keeping him on the sidelines. I think the Dallas Cowboys could have done a lot with that to try to tame Jalen Hurts in this game by just effectively establishing the run a little bit more. 11 carries to me for Tony Pollard, especially when he doesn't break the big play, that's just not enough for me. And CeeDee Lamb on the day had 5 receptions for 68 yards, 10 targets. I'm starting to get very, CeeDee Lamb is an incredible talent, right? He's one of my favorite wide receivers, especially dating back to last season. I said on multiple occasions, man, I wish the Giants would have drafted him. And, speaking on Kadarius Toney, I wanted Kadarius Toney to kind of mold into the kind of wide receiver that CeeDee Lamb is. He's got 0 100-yard games this year. And when they thinking, you're supposed to be the number 1 threat, the number 1 wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, and you wearing that number 88, bro, if you're not getting 100 yards,
Spike don't care.
I got to keep it funky with you, bro. I got to keep it funky with you, man. And this was not the best performance, across the board from the Philadelphia Eagles, but they did just enough to get it done. And if they can win games like this, with this gritty fashion, I think it's going to yield well for them in the future. And can't go without talking about the newly acquired safety from the Saints, man, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who had 2 interceptions on Cooper Rush in this game. The defense definitely gave the Dallas Cowboys problems, especially in that first half. And just another game where the Philadelphia Eagles, take care of business in the first half, kind of coast to a victory. It got a little bit alarming there in the third quarter, but they kind of coasted to a victory in this one, man. What did you see on this?
So before I break down this Philadelphia, I almost said Phillies, Eagles, and Cowboys game, big shout out to Entertainer for the $5 super chat. Says Daniel Jones, 4 game-winning drives, 3 second-half comeback wins, down 10 in the second half. He's playing at a near top 10 level and trending upwards, which I think is the most important thing in that entire statement is and I liked his comments at the end of the game too, which we'll talk a little bit about more so when we get into the Giants game. But definitely, I mean, those sort of things are what you're looking for your quarterback. I'm not going to say franchise, but your quarterback, you want to see game-winning drives, second half comebacks. You know what I'm saying? So those are the sort of things you want to see.
One little asterisk I will throw on there. It's not the traditional game-winning drives, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, not the 2-minute drill.
Stafford 2-minute drill type things, right? So that seems a little bit overblown, right? Two of the game-winning touchdowns came from Saquon Barkley, right? But you got to take into consideration those drives when Saquon's not in the game, or when Daniel is putting the team on his back like he did against the Packers and he did against the Ravens. So I'm loving what I'm seeing, man. More good for Daniel Jones means more good for the New York Giants. I'm on this train with Daniel Jones 1,000%. I'm not one of those people that, because I've, have covered Daniel Jones a certain way in the past that was very critical, is going to see him play well and not want him to play well and be, salty. You know how you could be salty. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm rooting for Daniel Jones because I think it makes things easier if indeed you do transition to another quarterback in the future, via draft and whatnot. I've never been one of those guys like, hey, get the rookie and throw him in. If Daniel Jones is winning games, I want him to be the quarterback here in New York, bottom line.
Absolutely. And big shout out to Tuto for the $4.99 super chat. Says massive salute to Awthentik and Beard. Congrats to all diehard Giants fans around the world. And please slap all stinky Boyd's losers
my man.
out of the dough and in a hurry. Salute Italy. Shout out Tudo. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you for stopping by as always.
That's the fan right there.
I mean, look, we talked about this before this game started. Okay. On Thursday night, we talked about, hey, the turnover differential is going to be so critical in this matchup. The Philadelphia Eagles were number 1, I believe, in the National Football League with a +9 turnover differential. And in this game, they were a +3 differential, which was eventually the game changer, the reason why they won this game. The 3 turnovers were insane. And what's more impressive about the turnovers is what Philadelphia does with the turnovers. They are second in the National Football League in points off of turnovers. So when you're leading the league in turnover differential and then you're actually doing something with those turnovers, it's huge. They had 10 points in this game off of those 3 turnovers. So and you see the final score is 26-17. Those 10 points, it's 17-16. So it's just the way that the Philadelphia Eagles are playing football right now. It's just complimentary football. The same with the New York Giants. It's one guy each week or multiple guys in one game. Like you talked about Gardner Johnson with the interceptions, okay? Miles Sanders, quietly, another really impressive game. And A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith.
18 for 71 and a touchdown. I've been talking about Saquon with those kind of games all year. When you can commit to the run and get like 70 yards, job done.
Yeah, especially in today's football. It's
all good.
Yeah, because you're grinding the defense down. You're opening the door for other players offensively. Devonta Smith had big plays in this game. A.J. Brown had big plays in this game. I think they both had
right here by a new face I'm seeing in the building here, man. Shout out to Caden Kager one time. He says Rush did his job and gave us 4 games. That cannot go unnoticed. I definitely feel you on
100%.
that. 4-1 with Dak Prescott out, nobody expected that. And I think a lot of people were kind of a little bit hyped up off of the performances that he's done, and we're trying to kind of cause a quarterback controversy over there. But people got to remember that they didn't have a lot of tape on Cooper. So, he came out here. He did his job, man, for 4 games. He got you to 4 W's. So that definitely does not go unnoticed.
And obviously, the Dallas defense is a really good defense. And we've talked about it this year already. They're playing they're succeeding defensively in a different way than they did last year, which is impressive. And they did do a fairly good job of holding the Eagles down to a certain extent. Obviously the turnovers killed them and the penalties killed them. You said it, 10 penalties, 72 yards. You can't turn the ball over. You can't have 10 penalties against.
Weren't they the number 1 penalized team last year? Weren't people giving Mike McCarthy a lot
Dallas?
of problems about that? Yeah, it was Dallas.
I can't remember for sure, but I think you might be right on that. You might be right on that. And CeeDee Lamb, I think to kind of bounce off of that Cooper Rush comment, I think, we kind of got to give – I don't want to make an excuse for CeeDee Lamb. But at the same time, you got to understand he doesn't have Dak Prescott right now. And he didn't have Michael Gallup for a lot of this start to the season also. Michael Gallup's kind of been slow to come around off of the injury, which is, expected to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But missing another – that's why I think the Tony Pollard thing that you said too, it's like Tony Pollard needs to be looked at like a playmaker.
Facts.
Like how Antonio Gibson
get him that big play every game.
Exactly. So it just makes sense because you have CeeDee Lamb, right? 5 for 68. The next guy on that list is Jake Ferguson.
Yeah. The backup tight end, right?
4 for 40.
Yeah, and he had the touchdown.
Like Jake Ferguson. That's your number 2 guy in the box score, basically. You know what I'm saying?
So question marks at the wide receiver position for them entering the year. You know, Noah Brown kind of, he kind of overexcelled a little bit the first couple of weeks, and people were like, oh, maybe that problem is fixed at the wide receiver position. But I think that they're starting to really see the value of a guy like Amari Cooper in that offense.
Absolutely.
I like and shout out to the Ravens who, they just lost this game to the Giants and went out there and they signed Deshaun Jackson today. Cowboys might need to make a move like that at wide receiver or, and I don't know why this is not a topic with a lot of Cowboys content creators right now. The kid Cavante Turpin, who's returning kicks and punts for them right now, is an electric player. He reminds me of Cedric Wilson, juiced up a little bit more. He can make those plays. So I think that you could probably take Cavante Turpin. I don't know if they're doing this or not. I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan. I just watched the games. I have not seen them try to use him as a gadget on offense like that yet. And maybe that could be a thing to supplement for the lack of offensive, explosivity that the Cowboys are not having right now. Bringing in a guy like Cavante to be able to make these big plays, similar to what Tony Pollard is doing from the backfield.
Yeah, and listen, Dallas's defense, they did what they could too. They sacked Jalen Hurts 4 times. And what was super killer is the Eagles, when they need to get something done, they seem to find a way to get it done. Very similar to the New York Giants, which is why these teams have winning records, why these teams only have 1 loss or 0 losses. That last drive, they took up that drive in the fourth quarter, took up, I want to say it was more than half of the fourth quarter.
It was.
On that one drive.
So I think it was almost 9 minutes or something that drive took up.
And what's important is that you talked about the time of possession, keeping Jalen Hurts off the field. The Philadelphia Eagles had 34 minutes and 30 seconds of time of possession to Dallas's 25-30.
Yeah, that's not the way.
It's not the way. It just doesn't make sense. So for me, those are some of the things that kind of stood out. And I think that, for the Eagles to be 6-0 and not even have played a complete game right now is absolutely frightening.
Now, what do we think about the competition that the Eagles have seen thus far? We got the Vikings, I believe. You got the Lions. You got the Commanders. You got the Cowboys. You got the Jaguars. And one other game I
don't think it's not a schedule, because I'm one of these guys who is, you can only play who's on your schedule, okay?
Yep.
Like, it's not like college football where teams basically make their own schedule. You know what I'm saying? So for me, the Eagles have played. I mean, the Vikings are 5-1, albeit we don't necessarily think that they're I don't think they're a high. I don't think they're a high quality
in that division.
They're a high quality 5-1 team. The Jaguars, I think, are a good team, which they're favored to beat you guys right now. I don't know if you're betting out there. I'd grab that Giants +3 right now.
Yeah.
And then, the Lions offensively, up until that game against New England, they were on a bye week this last week, and they've been banged up since the last couple of weeks. Amon-Ra has been banged up. DeAndre Swift has been banged up.
Yep.
So, they haven't played the worst of the worst. To be perfectly honest with you, the worst team they probably played was the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, either y'all or the Lions. I mean, the Lions, offensively a juggernaut for sure, but defensively they're one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, so I mean, they've played middle of the pack opponents.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way I could put it. I want to give a big shout out to ENA. We got time for the $4.99 super chat. Says, I'm hearing a rumble about a Tony trade. I'm big on production over talent, but what would his trade value be? I'm not on board with this trade. For me personally, because I'm one of the guys I got my ear to the streets, you know what I'm saying? So I know what's going on in the trade market, area, situation, scene. I think this is a bogus, smoke right here, this Tony talk. I think if they were to move somebody, they would move Galladay before they would Tony. The problem is trying to get a team to take on Galladay's contract. You to move Kadarius Toney at this stage wouldn't really make sense because you still have him on a rookie deal, okay, and the low rookie deal considering some of the higher picks before him, and he hasn't played. He's been injured. So to trade him, you're not really going to get the return that you would be able to get on him if you were to move him off season after a somewhat productive play on the field, or if he were to get into play before the actual trade deadline. So to me, it's just smoke and mirrors.
You're insinuating that he's a problem in a way because he's got no productivity at all on the field this season. Only thing that Kadarius Toney has in his career to hang his hat on is the Giants' single-game record for receiving yards, right? The one game against the Dallas Cowboys where Daniel Jones gets knocked out and you got Mike Glennon in the game for about half the game. But outside of that, Kadarius Toney really hasn't done much in this league. The trade value, I don't think there's much trade value there. I mean, guys like Amari Cooper just got traded for a sixth. What could we possibly get for a guy who has no productivity? And on top of that, he's not healthy. He's dealing with 2 hamstrings.
Yeah, and I mean, you just drafted him 2 years ago in the first round.
Yeah, totally. Which, I mean, that part is not the biggest determining factor for me of why you won't trade him, because we've seen guys, man, 2 years, if you were a problem in a lot. Was Percy Harvin on his same team for 2 years before he got let go or whatever? I doubt it. I feel like he didn't spend 2 years on a team. He's with Minnesota, Seattle, and like one more squad, I feel like.
He bounced around a lot towards the end.
And his career seemed extremely short, but he was an incredible talent, and that's the difference. He had productivity on the field consistently in the special teams game and as a wide receiver. Kadarius Toney, I don't know if it's smoke or not, but it's not working right now. It's not doing anything to aid towards the wins that the New York Giants are getting. If anything, it's making us worse. So my thing is Kadarius Toney needs to understand the situation at hand and how severe this is right now. I talked about this at the beginning of the year. This is your only season and your only window that you have to be a number 1 wide receiver on the New York Giants. And right now, I'm not going to say that he's throwing it away. His injuries are definitely a detriment to that. But at the same time, it's like you got to jump through and dive through these opportunities and be able to find a way to get on that field. I'm not saying you got to play through the injuries, man. If you're hurt, you're hurt. That's not on you. But at the same time, trade rumblings, I think that if a team is offered the right trade for damn near any player who's not producing, there's going to be a viable option there for them to at least, consider hearing what the other team's got to say. So I'm not sitting here telling you that Kadarius Toney's not going to get traded. By no means. But I just don't see the value there. Like, what do you get out of it? Like I said, Amari Cooper got traded for 6, and this is a guy who can totally change the whole landscape of an offense.
I mean, I would think, say the injury wasn't really an injury. Okay?
No, there's no way.
Hypothetical, okay? I would imagine you would be able to get a 3rd-round pick for him.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, that young of a guy, talent, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he wasn't injured, I think you could get a 3rd-round pick from a desperate enough team. The thing about Cooper is
injured, he'd be out there making plays. His value for the team he's on would increase. The talent is undeniable. The talent is completely undeniable. So teams are probably looking at him like, oh, this is what I could do with him. This is what I could do with him. But if you can't stay on the field, we already know, man, the best ability is availability, bro. If you can't stay, what team's going to want you if you're continuously hurt? And you're on the Giants, who are dealing with literally the exact same thing at the other side of wide receiver when you look at Kenny Golladay, a guy who we just threw a complete bag at, who hadn't proven that he could stay healthy coming off a major hip injury. A lot of Giants fans aren't speculating about that, but how much of this got to do with the hip injury before he got the knee injury? Now he's got 2 injuries coming off the hip. Now you got the main knee injury that he's dealing with. I think it was like a sprained knee or something like that. What team's going to want to get involved with that? I just don't see it, man. I understand the hypothetical situation, but I will say this. There's no way that the Giants would not have Kadarius Toney out on the field if he was healthy. There's no way. With the lack of wide receiver talent that we have out there right now, there's no way.
What would you put a value on Kadarius Toney in his current situation?
Nothing.
Nobody would even trade a 7th round.
Another player. You remember when the Giants traded Isaac Yiadom for that cornerback from the Green Bay Packers, and then we ended up cutting him before the season started? It'd be something like that. You would have to go player for player, and maybe it's a player that one of the coaches on our staff, a guy like Wink Martindale, has some history with, that he's like, I know I can bring this guy in and implement him right away. I don't see it. I don't see no value in Kadarius Toney right now. He hasn't played. While
we're talking trade value, what do you think the trade value is for Christian McCaffrey? Because he's an often injured guy with RB1 talent. Think he's a 3rd-round draft pick?
Yeah, right around 3rd-round pick at most for me if I'm the GM. Because man, it's like, what is CMC gonna do to a team right now that's not good? if I'm a team that's not good, I'm not thinking about bringing him in. It doesn't make any sense, right? You got to take on his contract. You're bringing in a guy who, yeah, he's a good talent when he's healthy, but at the end of the day, he's not a game changer or a game breaker. The hybrid running back, I've been saying this for the whole year, the hybrid running back is dying. You have to be able to do everything if you're going to try to be a hybrid running back. And you got to be able to make those physical runs, which I think CMC does a good job of doing, but he's always hurt. I told my man Patrick at the beginning of the year, he was like, I'm drafting CMC with the 4th pick in my fantasy. And I said to him, I said, you sure? And he's like, yeah, he's going as high as number 1, number 2 this year. And I was like, this was before I had dug into fantasy, right? This was like off-season vibe. I was like, really? He's going that high right now? To me, it doesn't make sense because the guy's hurt every year. What does he have? One full season under his belt?
No, he's got a couple, but yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they can move him. Where they go?
They'll be able to move him somehow because, I mean, he is a talent. But it won't be nothing too crazy. They're going to have to take lower value in return because their team is just garbage. It's not a landing destination for a lot of players, for one. And 2, they're just dealing with all these coaching issues over there. I think they're gonna take a lot less as far as the value goes to get rid of players.
Yeah, I totally agree. But, I mean, look, Eagles undefeated, Cowboys, getting a little tighter there. Now in 3rd place.
They did everything they needed to do to keep things, treading water until Dak Prescott gets back.
Absolutely. But now this is the true test here. When Dak is back. Will it be like the New York Jets when Zach Attack is back, Jack? Will it be a Dak
Attack is back, Jack?
I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see, aren't we?
Man, I can't believe they beat the Packers on Sunday. Them Jets, I cannot believe that.
What? I mean, listen. Zach Attack is back, Jack. The funniest part of my Sunday was when you tweeted that and then you said,
here it comes.
The beard right now is typing it out right now, that Minneapolis rap. Yep, I literally was.
I knew it, dog. I'm like, here it comes, yo. Here it comes. I can't believe that Aaron Rodgers is not getting that team together to go out there and beat teams like the Jets. And now we got to hear about all this. Every report I find on YouTube, it'll be Colin Cowherd or it'll be what's my dude that got the new show on FS1 now that's on WFAN, Carton and Roberts or whatever, right? It's always the Giants and the Jets. Man, get out of here with that Jets talk. I'm looking for strictly New York Giants content right now. I don't want to hear nothing about them Jets. I don't care if it's New York related or not.
Man, I saw them pop in the top 10 power rankings.
The Jets? Come on, man.
Jets.
All right, man. I'm ready to move on.
Let's move on to the next order at hand here.
All right, so we're going to talk about your Commanders and all the turmoil that's going on over there. All right, Beard, before I pass this one off to you, man, I just want to talk about one quick thing, man. The Commanders took care of the Bears on Thursday night, man. Washington right now is sitting at 2-4, which is, I guess, keeping y'all above water. They beat the Bears 12-7. And I wanted to talk about Justin Fields. Let me make sure I got this clip here, man. I don't even know if I uploaded it. Yeah, I didn't upload it. So let me get that popping right now. But I want to talk about the Justin Fields interview and the last sequence of plays, man, because, as a Giants fan, somebody just flew by my house on a motorcycle at like 300 miles per hour.
I was going to say, sound like I was playing Road Rash just now on Sega Genesis.
That was a good game too, man. Had a little the chain and the baseball bat and all that. But with Justin Fields, I'm starting to sense a lot of what I've sensed with Daniel Jones in New York. Supporting cast is one thing, which I don't think is like detrimentally awful, right? It's not the greatest supporting cast, but I do like Darnell Mooney. I know you're a big fan of Darnell Mooney. Dave Montgomery's a pretty decent running back. And they got Khalil Herbert over there who's, he's in relief. I mean, they have 2 good running backs over there. Tight end is not awful with Kmet. And, I just think they got a few weapons. But for me, it's the coaching that I noticed in this game. They're trying to kind of put, a square peg into a round box or a round circle.
I can never figure that one out, right? But we're going to have to learn it, yeah.
We are going to have to learn that, like the rainbows and unicorns or whatever it was. Yeah, whatever it is, right? But, what I'm starting to see is that the OC over there is like really trying to take Justin Fields and turn him into a pocket passer, which I don't think is his best skill set. I'd like to see more of a system that looks more like what the Eagles are running, or even more like what the New York Giants are running. Limit the throws for this kid, and have him using his legs. I mean, he ran a 4.4 at the combine. I think that he can, excel as a running quarterback first. Like, it's what they did with Jalen Hurts. They made the run work first, and then slowly but surely started trying to implement the pass. But I wanted to show, our viewers and our fam in the chat, this interview with what he was saying, and as well show you the last 3 plays that happened in this game where I thought Justin Fields was doing everything in his power to put his team in position to win this game, and his surrounding cast was definitely letting him down.
Finish. We didn't finish. Missed a wide open touchdown pass. Didn't finish. 4th and 1. Handed the ball up to Demo. Couldn't finish it. Last play. Couldn't finish it. There's multiple plays in that game that we could have made to, change the whole game, but the summary of it all is we didn't finish. And, it doesn't matter if you drive all the way down to the 1-yard line and don't score. So when the play's there, make it. Plain and simple. There's no logistics. It's not simple. It's not complicated. It's when you have that opportunity, finish. It's that simple. And, we just didn't do that tonight. We had plenty of opportunities in the game that we just didn't finish, so we just got to get better at that.
All right, so you see the clip. Now you see the question on the screen. This is what I wanted to lead to and see how you felt about this. I know y'all were clawing and scratching to try to get your second win of the season, but did the Commanders get lucky?
There's no luck in the NFL. You make your own luck.
That ain't the answer I expected.
You make your own luck. I mean,
okay.
Everybody gets a little lucky, right? It's just the way that
Wait. We're not going to contradict ourselves over here on Authentic and The Beard, where we don't look at things optimistically or pessimistically. We look at things realistically over here now. We can't say luck is not a thing in the NFL and then everybody gets a little bit lucky, can we?
Yeah, we can, because, it's... The thing is... No, you can say that, because it's true. I don't look at it as getting lucky, okay? Because you have to put yourself in a position to get lucky, okay? So you're not just getting lucky, all right? I know this sounds like a little bit of a beardism, okay? But sometimes,
the GIF where it's like all the trigonometry on the screen and
the Zach Galifianakis. That's how it is right now. Yeah, I mean, it's just there was a little bit of luck, but did they get lucky? No, I mean. Yeah, they did get lucky, of course, but
I'm lost.
I don't want to say they got lucky, okay? I don't want to say you make your own luck. Yeah, exactly, Bookhead. You make your own luck, but the way that whole thing went down at the end, it was like Washington the week before against Tennessee. You have Justin Fields, who just ran like a 60-yard run to get you into that position, and they dropped the ball in
Bears
more ways
came
than
away
one.
With 0 points on 3 trips inside the 5-yard line, dog.
0 for 3 in red zone. Shout out to the Washington Commanders red zone defense.
That's, if you ask me, y'all was doing y'all best impersonation of Neo, bro. Y'all was dodging major bullets in this game.
Oh,
the Bears really should have won this game, I thought.
100%.
I thought they should have won the game.
I mean, listen, every game that Washington has won, they should have lost. Every game that Washington has lost, they should have won. You felt
like that about the Jaguars game?
Yeah. I mean,
know the Jaguars left a lot out there, but I thought y'all played the better game. I mean, Carson Wentz, he had like 300-plus yards in that game. He had at least 2 touchdowns through the air.
Yeah.
Offense was moving.
Yeah. For portions of the game, there was large portions of that game where the offense wasn't moving.
That's cool. I'm a New York Giants fan, bro. We don't even start playing until the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, I noticed that. The big difference is you guys are 5-1 and we're 2-4. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
I do want to give a couple of big shout outs to Brian for the $1.99 super chat. Says authentic facts. Kenny Golladay was never right after the hip. I mean, it
could be the case. Yeah, and I'm
definitely
speculating. I'm not saying for 100% sure or nothing like that. But I mean, what else could we place his lack of productivity on? I really don't know. I mean, I've been skeptical about the chemistry between the quarterback and Kenny Golladay as well too. I wouldn't rule that out as well.
Yeah, and big
the
shout
targets
out.
are low. The targets are
Yeah.
Even when Kenny Golladay is healthy, he's not getting targets.
I want to say he has under 10 targets in the season.
Oh yeah, and he's been out now for what, 3 straight weeks? You know, so I mean, and then he limited snaps. This year is, you know, I don't. When I say that the targets have been limited, I really can't factor in this year that much because he had 2 games where he was on the field for 7 snaps, and the other game it was 2 snaps. It's hard to get targets when you're out there. But dating back to 2021, Kenny Golladay, 68 targets when you were out there for 14 games. That's not how Kenny Golladay produces. That's not how he does.
Definitely not. And big shout out to Paulie for the $2 super chat. Says big up to his cuzzo Whitehead. Don't front on the Jets. Listen, hey, I've been calling Jets wins and spread covers every Sunday on the parlay. Okay, so ain't no fronting on the Jets here. Zach Attack is back, Jack.
I'm fronting on them Jets, man. I saw today on one of the national shows on either ESPN or FS1, they were talking about who's more likely to make the playoffs, the Jets or the Giants. And I was like, not only do we got one more win than them, they in the AFC. It's popping in the AFC right now. Good luck.
But is it? It isn't.
I mean, man, the Chargers are playing absolutely horrible football, and somehow they're sitting at 4-2.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Right now, I'm worried about the teams in my division more than I'm worried about any other team in the NFC right now.
Yeah.
You had to think about that, right? AFC, bro, you're gonna deal with Patrick Mahomes. You got to deal with Josh Allen. You know Justin Herbert gonna be there, and some of these teams that are kind of they probably gonna get it together too. In the NFC, I'm looking at it like, okay, maybe the Bucks get themselves together. Rams might. I don't know, man. The Dallas Cowboys took care of the Rams by 2 scores.
That's what I was gonna say. Do you think that the best 3 teams in the NFC are all from the NFC East?
Nah.
So
I got to say the Minnesota Vikings are in the top 3 in the NFC.
See,
right
you
now.
and I are. That's our one disconnect is that Vikings. I'm right there. I'm not there yet.
You don't like the Vikings on the low.
It has nothing to do with Kirk Cousins. It has nothing to do with Kirk Cousins.
It has nothing to do with Kirk Cousins.
Hey, big shout out to ENA. We got time. Who basically took my, trigonometry on the screen and put it together in a nice $4.99 super chat. Luck is when hard work meets opportunity. So,
And then there's just luck. Minnesota Vikings against the Saints in the playoffs. Bracket coverage, your defender just puts his head down, completely misses the tackle on Stephon Diggs, is out of here.
But did we get lucky or did the Bears just fail to?
Both. Y'all lucky. The Bears folded.
I see. No, I don't know.
This was like you got pocket aces, and the river came down. You had an ace on the board, and the river came down and locked you in for the full house, and you folded. That's literally what this is like. Not only were they on the goal line in 3 separate occasions, 2 before the end of the game. At the end of the game, you got 3 shots to get in the end zone. Your wide receiver's literally dropping the ball. If Darnell Mooney don't bobble that pass at the end of the game, it was literally about that much that y'all won that game.
It's a game of inches, man.
Yeah,
game of inches.
I know. I love cliches, man. I love it.
Man, we live them here in Washington Commander country.
Because luck is a factor. You got to factor in some luck.
Yeah, there was a little bit. I'll give you that. Okay, there was some luck. It's not a Washington win without some luck.
I heard the explanation what you was trying to do before. I know you've already admitted that luck was a factor. I told you it was the gift, bro. It was like 100 different numbers on the screen, with a bunch of different square root signs and multiplication, division, all kind of things happening at once. But I knew what the sum was. Y'all got lucky.
Yeah.
Shout out to the graphics department, man. They told me about it.
Listen, you know what? You want to really know why we won this game? Oh, here. No. All right, let's get it out the way. Waterfly has jinxed the Washington Commanders, and he has this little computer code that he has put together has basically destroyed the algorithm of our quarterbacks, and now Heineke is starting. So clear my throat for this one.
Clear his throat.
Big shout out to Waterfly for the $2 super chat. Heineke.
Thank you, Waterfly. We definitely appreciate that $2 super chat, man. That goes a long way to support this channel and get the beard, rapid fire in them $9.99s. And I heard the Heineke this time. I heard the Heineke. I need to clip that up and get that on the soundboard here one time.
Oh man, Matt, if Heineke starts going ham,
it's gonna be a problem.
Is that gonna be a thing? Is that gonna be a thing? Oof,
it's a possibility. Man. We know that.
Stephen R says, I might have had a rabbit foot in your pocket on them drives. I spent the entire second half on the exercise bike watching the game.
Oh, yeah, you did send me that picture.
My legs were on fire the next day because I wasn't just like sitting on the exercise bike. I was going straight. You know how when you sit on an exercise bike, you go forward and then you go backwards just because, you got that ADD and you just like can't go forward.
Hey, peace out to Roman, man. Appreciate you pulling up for the stream.
Good to see you, brother. The one thing is Washington didn't RTDB, okay? They RTB'd. They didn't run the damn ball, but they ran the ball, okay? We were up to 28 carries in this game, thankfully. So that kind of, put us almost in the Beard's atmosphere of 30 to 40 carries a game. Okay, we forced 2 turnovers. One of them we didn't necessarily force. I say luck forced a turnover since we're talking about getting lucky on the muffed punt. That was obviously one of the turnovers, but it ended up being huge.
And I ain't even talk about that when I was talking about the luck.
I know you
gave y'all the game. That gave y'all the go-ahead score.
But but the difference is we put it in the end zone and they didn't.
Facts.
That's not luck. We had 5 sacks, by the way. Shout out to the defensive line. The defense has been playing better. It's been playing better.
Y'all are the number 3 defense in the league right now.
That's a lie. But
I saw that on Twitter and I was like, that don't sound right. No. I was like, that don't. Hold on, let me check my notes.
Yeah, you check that up because I'm going to get to a point here. The red zone defense, shout out red zone defense. We held them. They were 0 for 3 in the red zone, as you see on the screen. That was not just, that's not all luck. The red zone defense has been very good for Washington this year. Montez Sweat back to back, another big game for Montez Sweat.
He's a beast,
6 tackles, 2 for loss, 1 sack, 4 quarterback hits. He's got to be top 5, top 10 in quarterback pressures and quarterback hits right now. But the one thing is, all that good for the defense, right? And, obviously our offense is bad at this point, but the defense is still giving up the big plays. How many plays do you think they gave up in this game? 20-plus yard plays. In a game where their team only scored 7 points. 5 plays, 20 or more in this game. Almost 6. It was a 19-yard play. I almost said 6 just so I could say 6 and say 19-plus yard plays. But I said, you know what? I'm going to stick with the Beard's number of 20 for a big play. We've gave up 5 plays of 20 or more yards in this game. One of them was a 61-yard run. I mean, the tackling in this game was horrendous. Oh, yeah. I mean, the tackling was really bad. And then, obviously, the big run to Justin Fields that put him in the position to have those shots at the end of the game. I'm sitting here like...
That one run right there, he showed, he can do some things that a lot of quarterbacks can't do.
How does they get to the red zone, to the 5-yard line after that play, and it doesn't cross your mind to run the ball at least once?
Yeah, that was bad.
You know what I'm saying? Coaching. This was a game of bad coaching all the way around. Obviously, Washington's offense, we got to talk about Washington's offense. This was Carson Wentz's worst game. Now it makes sense why it was his worst game. The guy was playing with a fractured finger on his throwing hand.
How long was he playing with the messed up hand?
I want to say from second quarter on, I believe. Yeah. And then he threw that dart to Curtis Samuel, an absolute beautiful pass with the fractured finger. Curtis Samuel dropped it. There was a lot of drops in this game by Washington Commanders players. Yeah. For sure. That was an issue. What I thought
was interesting about y'all entire game plan was to move all the rushing mainly towards Brian Robinson.
Oh, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that.
He was the spark.
Because Brian Robinson, listen, we all want Brian Robinson to be good. Even if you're not a Commanders fan because of the story, right? If you're a Commanders fan, you want Brian Robinson to do good because we put draft capital in a running back position when we had a top 10 running back in the National Football League already with major holes on the rest of the team.
Top 5.
Thank you. Top 5, Antonio Gibson.
Number 3 in rushing in 2021. Just want to throw that out there.
Shout out to Awthentik, left side, strong side.
You know
and so, back-to-back games again. Back-to-back-to-back games, actually. Third downs, Washington, 2 for 11. Penalties, 7 for 36 yards.
2 for 11? Yo,
2 for 11 on third down.
One third down conversion last week?
We've converted 4 third downs in the last 3 weeks total.
Yeah, y'all were 1 for 11, I think, last week.
And 2 for 12 the week before. So it's basically
in the NFL right now in third down conversion.
Not going to cut it.
That's
not going to cut it.
Really ain't moving for real.
Yeah, and so to touch on what Awthentik was talking about with the Antonio Gibson situation, he touched the ball 3 times in the first half.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And all those people that wanted to complain about Antonio Gibson, oh, he has no vision, he never hits the right hole. Brian Robinson was not really, he was having some trouble. He was running into the wrong holes a lot in that game, but he pounded out some good runs. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Brian Robinson. He scored the touchdown. You know what I'm saying? He was impactful without being the same sort of impact that Antonio Gibson had on that drive where they finally decided to incorporate Antonio Gibson when the drive for the field goal, which cut it to 7-6.
Third quarter, yeah.
He had 3 touches the first half on the drive where they kicked the field goal to make it a 7-6. He had 3 carries for 30 yards and 2 catches for 13 yards. 43 yards on that drive. That drive was a total of 65 yards. He had 43 of the 65 yards. And then you get down to the 7-yard line for Chicago. 2nd and goal on the 7-yard line. And what does Scott Turner call? Carson Wentz, quarterback keeper? Sweep on the outside. Like, what?
See, that's interesting. Like they must have known on the sidelines he was dealing with an injury to his hand. Like, why are you running him?
Why? It's like, shout out to Paulie. Says, puck that. Gibby need the ball. Exactly. Yeah. You gotta give Gibson. You gotta give Gibson the ball, man. Shout out to Paulie. I've been telling
they didn't go with the hot hand, man. I mean, the kid Gibson's averaging 7 yards per carry on 5 attempts, man. Like, I just don't understand. Like, it's 2 games they feel like they've tried to, like, implement this Brian Robinson story more than anything. Even when they got down there near the goal line and gave the ball to Robinson, I'm like, is this, like, for the fairy tale portion of the NFL? Because he also was on the podium at the end of the game, getting the interview from the whole whatever Amazon Prime staff and whatnot. And I just, like, it's almost like you're trying to force the narrative in a way. Like, you should be easing this guy back into the lineup and slowly but surely utilizing him. This is like the Cowboys just seeing Tony Pollard could be an effective running back and just going, all right, Zeke, we're going to just sit you on the bench, give you 4 carries.
And it doesn't make sense because you're allowed to use both running backs. There's no rule that says that you can't. You can use both running backs. So it's just like, it was just weird because it wasn't even like they were alternating series or alternating, even on the same series they did on that one series. And the coaches, shout out to the coaches, finally admitted they did something wrong. They said that they messed up by not getting Antonio Gibson involved earlier in the game. They said that was on them. They came out and said that was on them. So I mean, like, it was clear. And then
some accountability.
It's just weird that you run that sneak on 2nd down when you're down there. Shout out to Paulie. 1st down call, flip to Samuel. Yeah, on the goal line. That was right. And then they called the quarterback sneak on 2nd down. Then on 3rd down, you get the Cam Sims false start. So now you're at 3rd and 10, and Curtis Samuel drops the pass, the 2nd drop pass. So you have to settle for the field goal. It's 7-6. So it was sloppy. It was messed up. But we did get the win.
Drop, the 2nd drop,
that was
like, bro,
you're not having a good day.
Now you starting to look at your hands like Hanen and Little Giants like, what are y'all are just not working today. You know how that can be. You got hands. You know how to catch. But you know how it is when you drop 2 and you just be like, how the hell am I dropping these passes?
You got the dropsies. You got the dropsies. A big shout out to Corey on the Warpath. It basically sums it up. A bad team outlasted a bad team. I am going to be on with Corey tomorrow night on the Warpath, so make sure you guys give a sub up to On the Warpath. Come over there, show some love from the AATB family.
Big facts.
But yeah, it was a tough game to watch. I mean, I've almost jinxed us too myself because I was like tweeting out basically like we had won the game, and then
I saw you and I said, bro.
And then
the Beard was arguing with people about ugly wins while the Chicago Bears were driving down the field. I'm like, yo, dog, you really about to jinx this right now. You better pump the brakes on this. You're going to look crazy here in a second if y'all lose. Everything in me said y'all were going to lose that game. I was standing up. Me too. My girl will vouch for this. I was here in the studio standing up watching the game, pacing, literally going back and forth like, they're going to blow the game. They're going to blow the game. I knew it. I just felt it. And you guys got lucky. As it says, got a little lucky.
Oh, geez. Here we go. All right. This is getting a little crazy. But big shout out to Paulie. Says, real talk, they're not trying to get it back. I totally believe that that's the truth, too, man. You're going to start seeing.
This is a really great point. I don't want you to skip over this one too fast because that's exactly what it is. They're trying to devalue Antonio Gibson so they don't got to pay him the bag. But what's going to happen is you're going to have to go watch him go play for another team and ball out. That's not the vibes, man. That is not the vibes. And I'll get the second super chat lined up here while you get your camera all squared away and whatnot. But Waterfly is going to have you calling out that $9.99.99 one more time as well. So prep yourself. Up, I saw you. Here we go. There we go.
I'm back.
Give me my $9.99.
Oh, here we go. All right.
Give me my vibes. Okay.
Go Yankees.
Go Yankees. I didn't even see the Go Yankees.
You threw that in there too because you know I hate the Yankees.
Yeah.
Yankees and Heineke.
Yankees
and Heineke in the same sentence. You're killing me, Waterfly. You're killing me. I love you though, brother. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, salute the Waterfly, man, for the $2 super chat, man. We definitely appreciate that. Oh,
sloppy win.
Game. And we can't leave without talking about the amount of rushing yards y'all allowed on the ground here, the Chicago Bears. That was egregious. That was pretty. I want to say it was 238, 260. What was it?
I think it was like 181, 238.
238. And
188. 109 of that was on 2 plays.
Oh yeah, you can't take away the big plays. You know they were trying.
Yeah,
to do that
you always try to do that.
Time.
Yeah,
you take away the 50-yard run, you only average 3.2 yards per carry.
Yeah, see, I'm not trying to take it away. I'm trying to make it a point about how the defense, although they're playing better, is still giving up these big plays. When your offense is not playing well and your defense is playing well, but you give up those big plays, it's just like when it rains, it pours. You know what I'm saying? That's like
shout out to Fit.
Everything going good, you cruising.
Oh, I want to ask about this
flat
too.
Tire.
Dante Pettis, the big reception. You think he caught it?
No. And I thought I was losing my mind because I'm like, I'm jumping up. I'm like, nah, no catch. And then it was like, they didn't even, this is what be blowing me about the NFL too. They didn't even show you the replay. Nobody in the booth talked about it.
Right.
Like I'm sitting here like, I'm like, what is going on? Like, am I, and like I don't have it on DVR, so I can't rewind it right there on the spot.
Right.
So I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, let me ask you this. If you get the same foot down twice, does that count for 2 feet?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, if you get the same foot down and you like hopped on it, I would think that would count as 2 feet.
Because I didn't see 2 feet.
He bobbled it, and they acted like he didn't bobble it. That's what was sketchy to me. Is like he like it hit his hands, and then he like re-secured it, and the feet weren't in.
It was that one, I was like on Twitter, like I was like, somebody send me.
2 people.
They say no, it doesn't count.
It doesn't. I would like to look that up. You can't use the same foot twice. I can't hop on the same foot twice on the sideline. That's wild.
It's not. So like
people saying they don't think it does.
I was waiting for a replay. Like somebody sent me a replay because I swear that was not a touchdown. Definitely not a touchdown.
Like me, man.
Hey, I gotta give a big shout out to Vintage Sport Flips in the building. If you guys don't know, every Thursday night here on Awthentik and The Beard, we're live 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we give something away to one of our viewers every Thursday night. Last Thursday night was sponsored by Vintage Sport Flips, so make sure y'all go sub up to Vintage Sport Flips. He helped us by giving away a 1930s leather football helmet with a vintage, super vintage. We talking no face mask vintage.
Yeah.
New York Giants pennant. Shout out to old man Rob. I saw him in the chat earlier. That package is already on its way in transit to old man Rob. So big shout out to Vintage Sport Flips. Make sure you guys go ahead and head over to his channel and subscribe. Show him some love. He's definitely blessed us with that giveaway last Thursday.
Big facts. Salute
So,
on that, brother.
Chase Young. A lot of people talking about Chase Young in the chat. I think he's eligible to get off of IR this week, if I'm not mistaken.
What's the word? You think there's a chance he could be back, or?
I think it would. I think amongst in the midst of all this bad news, you would think that if that was the case, that they would be making a big deal about it because it would be some sort of good news. So I don't think he's coming off and playing this week, but we'll see. And then obviously we got to talk about really quick before we move on to this game. Ron Rivera's press conference after this game. Whew.
I felt like that was last week. That's what's so crazy about it. Like y'all game seems like it was so far ago. But yeah, that's the press conference where he stormed off, right?
Yeah.
He said, "I'm sorry," as he walked away. I like that. I can't do it. I'm sorry. And he almost tore his ACL stepping down them stairs a little bit too.
I mean, that was like you was so angry you almost made it. You just skipped a step.
He played it off real player like. He definitely was like, "Oh." But yeah, I mean, listen. I think that's just make up for the press conference from the previous week too. Like they asked him a question about acquiring Carson Wentz and whatnot or something like that, and he lost his mind on it. So
yeah, it's good to see a little fire. It either things like situations like that is either good or bad. It either
what you
works.
Think about people comparing it to Joe Judge when Joe Judge had his meltdown and then got fired.
Nah, the Joe Judge Jones was like an extensive
Yeah.
He was like that was like an Eminem song that he was writing. Like that was like a Stan song that he was
Your
writing.
Giants. I know you going. Nah, you're right about that. And I thought that Ron Rivera kind of not saved his job, but he got some more points towards keeping his job, I feel like, by walking off the podium because, and I said this on Twitter, Joe Judge, it was almost like he couldn't get the response back, right? So he just kept talking. And I can relate to that. I know what that's like. Like, you're so passionate about something, you talking so much, and you're getting no response back, right? So you just keep going. And as you keep going, you're really digging yourself a hole. And I think that's ultimately what got Joe Judge fired. But right now, I think for the Commanders, they're going to have to try to just find a way to get some wins, man. If you can get back to that 7-8 win type of, season, I think Ron Rivera is, helping out his job there, and he probably won't be fired at the end of the year. But if this kind of spirals and goes a little bit more out of control, things could get really ugly for him there in Washington.
It's going to be an interesting matchup this week, facing a Green Bay team that just lost to the Giants and the Jets.
Yeah, bro, that's not good for y'all. That's not good for y'all.
And then Heineke, but we're counteracting that with the Heineke effect. We'll see.
Maybe. Maybe. We'll see, man. We'll see. I know Aaron Rodgers. I saw him today on Pat McAfee, man, and he was just very calm, very composed. It's about time we got all the bad football out the way. So I think y'all are going to be in store for a great task for your defense in that game, for sure.
Indeed. And before we talk to you guys about a manscaping situation, let's get a big shout out to Mr. Finesse for the $4.99 super chat. Says, fellas, great work. Keep it going. Your lives are a breath of fresh air amongst this YouTube community of the miserable. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do by coming here and hanging out with us, man. We appreciate it, man.
Definitely appreciate it.
Nothing but love. Nothing but love here.
All right,
go
Manscaped
Commanders.
Times.
Manscaped times, and then maybe
I almost wanted to play some jazz flutes for Manscaped vibes. I need an instrumental for Manscaped vibes. Something that
some 70s porno style.
Yeah, something that's a little ballsy. Something like that. But shout out to Manscaped one time, man, for sponsoring this episode of Awthentik and The Beard, man. Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels.
Bars.
Manscaped's Performance Pack is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer to you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code AATB at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com when you use the code AATB, like Authentic and The Beard. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk about them Ravens, that pack we've been smoking for a whole entire couple of days here over at Authentic and The Beard. Sit tight. We'll be right back. For me, I'm going to say for now, this is an overreaction.
Buried him in the turf with his chin wrapped around his nostrils. He calls a timeout. Good wherewithal by Eli.
Great wherewithal.
Put this to music. I don't think he stepped out either. That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Shout out to YouTube for not demonetizing the giant overreaction for those couple of little clips of Odell Beckham. I don't know how. I'm just squeaking through with that.
Don't tell them.
Hey, I'm snitching on myself right now, you know. As my man Paulie would say, the streets need a body, right? But shout out to everybody that pulled up, man, to that giant overreaction on Monday. That video is like 1.5, 1.6 right now, man. We start getting in that 2K range. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose my mind, man. But that was a real just great session. That was probably my favorite giant overreaction show of the year, man. And Lucas was a big part of that, man, with that generous donation and just the whole vibes. You know, Giants being 5-1, it was extremely up, man, in that session, man, on that giant overreaction. So for those of y'all that's your first time tuning in, make sure you pull up on Monday, especially them Giants fans, man. Giant overreaction is always a fun one, very interactive, man, with the over and the unders on the overreaction, and that last one was fire.
It was.
I'm not going to reiterate too much about this game, you know, but we definitely going to talk about these Ravens coming to the MetLife and the Giants taking care of business.
Are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
This has been my soundtrack for these Giants recaps, so we got to keep this going because this, I don't know what it is about this instrumental. I'll be getting in my bag. But, man, the Giants took care of the Ravens in Wink Martindale's revenge game, 24-20. The Giants now are on a 3-game winning streak, man. We improved to 5-1 on the season right now. Each of our 5 victories come against opponents outside of the NFC East. All one-score games. The Giants are finding ways to win games that they didn't win last year. Shout out to my guy, man, Daniel Jones out there doing damage for the New York Giants at the quarterback position. A lot of content creators were breaking down a lot of tape this week from the offensive line perspective and from Daniel Jones' perspective. Shout out to Dan Snyder, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He had some quality videos up about Daniel Jones. One of them showing how he's been manipulating the pocket and whatnot, man. A great throw from Daniel Jones. Brian Daboll's making things easier for Daniel Jones, and I like that. It's making Daniel Jones a better quarterback. He was 19-27 in this game. 2 touchdowns, 2 pretty much easy touchdowns for Daniel Jones. One of them was in a tight window to Daniel Bellinger. The other was to Wan'Dale Robinson. 173 yards in this game, passing, QBR 68.3, man. I love seeing them high QBRs from my man Daniel Jones. And check this out, man. My man Juice Jones, who I believe is in the chat right now, brought this to my attention. The Giants are the only team right now without a wide receiver who has over 200 yards on the season. Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll are finding ways to get it done. A lot of it has to do with Saquon Barkley, too, man. Saquon Barkley balled out in this one, man. 22 carries for 83 yards. I'm steady talking about these gritty games and these gritty performances from Saquon Barkley, man. Second week in a row that Saquon Barkley scored a game-winning touchdown. And, you know, the smart heads-up play at the end of that game, we got to talk about that again. Saquon Barkley kneels it out. A lot of people were like, man, go score the touchdown. You got to – that's the way you put the nail in the coffin. You're not giving teams – any opportunity to be able to come back in these games. I talked about that on the giant overreaction. We saw it with the Browns against the Jets. Nick Chubb doesn't kneel it out. They get a 2-score lead late in that game, and the Jets end up coming back, finding a way to win that game. So for me, man, the Giants, man, is more the same. Second half comebacks, you know, and I just want to see this team on all cylinders. That's my goal by the, you know, we're about to hit the bye here in a couple of weeks after a pretty, you know, modest stretch of games here. We got 4 games here that I think are all winnable games. I'm looking for this offense really rev it up just a little bit more. I know that we got the creativity when it comes to the scheme and the philosophy of this offense. Mike Kafka and Brian Dable doing a hell of a job, man, especially utilizing the tight end, man. Daniel Bellinger has been a major key in this offense, and seeing what Wan'Dale Robinson did in this game too, I've got nothing but high hopes for the Giants offense, man, for the rest of the season. I want to go into a clip that we talked about on the Giant overreaction too. I think it'd be beneficial to just re-show this clip again from Chris Canty for those of y'all that didn't see it. And I think he hit a lot of great points right on the head. Let me just make sure I got this one uploaded. Oh man, I missed something on the Justin Fields talk. I wanted to bring a Max Kellerman clip that we didn't get to talk about. So if we get a little extra time at the end of the show, maybe I'll bring that up. But I want to show you all this Chris Canty one first.
Based on what we've seen and them actually beating the Baltimore Ravens at home coming off of the London trip, we got to start taking the Giants seriously as a good team. And you mentioned it. You talked about it off the top. The Ravens outplayed the Giants in a lot of different facets in that game. I mean, when you look at the total yards of both offenses, the New York Giants had 238 yards of total offense, which is absolutely putrid. The Baltimore Ravens had 406 yards of total offense. The average yards per play for the Ravens on offense was 7 yesterday. The New York Giants was 3.8, so nearly half of that. So when you start talking about productivity, there's a lot of instances where you're looking at the stat sheet and you're saying, man, this Baltimore Ravens team outplayed the New York Giants. But to me, the devil is in the details with the game yesterday. The Giants were so good in situational football, and that's the sign of a good coach team, a well-coached team. The Giants were 7-14 on third down. They were 3 for 5 in the red zone. And, Carlin, the biggest thing is your quarterback played relatively mistake-free football.
Yeah, that's Chris Canty right there on ESPN, former New York Giants Super Bowl champion too, man. I thought he made a lot of great points talking about a well-coached team and that, maybe the Ravens left a lot out there in this game. On Monday I did talk about this. The Ravens had the ball with 3 minutes left. They were up by 3 points in the game. So if they, on the first down that they converted on 3rd and 1, they had a penalty call it back because they had an illegal formation. And then on 3rd and 6 is when Lamar Jackson ends up throwing the interception. And then now you got Daniel Jones driving. We scored a touchdown, and you just went from a position of trying to drain the clock and trying to win the game while you were actually inching towards scoring position to now your last-ditch effort. And shout out to Wink Martindale, man. He sends a blitz, and Kayvon Thibodeau gets over there and gets the strip sack, and the rest is history, and the Giants go on to win this game. Shout out to my homie Top Billin on YouTube. He's got a new name for Kayvon Thibodeau. He was calling him Kayvon the Decepticon. I was like, I kind of like that right there. Got a nice little ring to it. Yeah. And for those of y'all that don't know, man, subscribe to Top Billin. He's a former player, man, and his takes are just, he loves Wink Martindale. So you're going to get a lot of Giants content over there. But he was talking about that, man, with the Giants. I do think that the Ravens squandered a couple of opportunities, but what were your thoughts on this one?
I mean, obviously, I almost wish I could call the graphics department and put up a little thing on the screen that says, did the Giants get lucky? But
I would have done that, but I think that somebody in the chat that lended this to you is more appropriate for this game, saying that when your preparation meets the opportunity, that's not really luck in my eyes, but if you could call it what you want to call it, but that's what I think it was. Preparation meets opportunity. Lamar Jackson handed us an opportunity there on the bobbled snap, rolls out to his right. All he's got to do is really just, run it or throw it out of bounds. Tried to play Superman, and I think the reason why he tried to play Superman is because in the latest fourth quarters with the Ravens, they have been folding. Lamar Jackson in the fourth quarter has 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, and a QBR of 28 right now. When
I heard you say that on Giant Overreaction, I was like, dang. And because, we're both big Lamar Jackson guys. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of this is self-inflicted from Baltimore. I mean, we talked about 10 penalties for 74 yards and the inopportune time of the penalties, getting the first down and then, it being called back because of the penalty and then the next play being an interception, getting an interception in the red zone and then getting the penalty of the defensive holding. So it's like
narrative would have been switched up if there wasn't a holding penalty on that one.
So it's very interesting to see, but this is what good teams do. And I think, it's interesting because the way that he ended that that clip in the way that he started that clip, talking about we have to start looking at the New York Giants as a good team. Absolutely. We should have, we started, maybe not the rest of the world, but I know Awthentik and most Giants fans and myself, being, engulfed in a lot of Giants, football because of what we do here.
Let's just call it what it is. You a Giants fan?
No, listen, shout out to Stan. Stan keeps trying to be like, yo, we got to get Tim in the blue, you know what I'm saying? But I noticed it before this week. I noticed it before the Packers week. It just took the Packers and the Ravens games for most people to get on board because this is what good football teams do. Good football teams get out yardaged by double and win a game. Okay? Good football teams don't turn the ball over. And the way that he said, he was like, Daniel Jones played a relatively clean game. He didn't turn the ball over once. Yeah, he had the interception in the red zone, but it was the holding. The fumble was because of the first at the end of the first half. But that's why
the stat box, but it really it was
exactly
harmless.
I always bring that up with quarterbacks and interceptions. Like when people want to bring up Carson Wentz's interceptions, right? I'm like, if you go back and look at his interceptions, half of those interceptions are like at the end of the first half sort of situation. So sometimes you got to kind of look into things and not just look at the stat box. But he played a clean game, and he did. Daniel Jones is doing what he needs to do. I'm not putting on Saquon.
One time in the building. Hey, welcome to the fam, DQ. That's a hilarious statement right there.
Yeah, so to me, the red zone situation, the Giants' red zone defense, all year, the Giants, not even just the red zone defense, but that side of the field defense, that bend don't break mentality has been a thing this year for the New York Giants, and they showcased it here. The Baltimore Ravens were 1 of 3 in the red zone. And one of the things that the Giants have struggled in recently, as last year and parts of this year so far, is their production in the red zone. 3 of 5. You'd like to see that 4 of 5, 5 of 5, but
it really is 4 or 5 because one of them was the Saquon Neal that they're saying that was a failed red zone attempt.
Great point. That just kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, how the interceptions and the fumble, you see it in the stat box, but if you look at it in reality, you'll see those sort of things. But to me, the turnovers too. We talked about it. The Giants forcing turnovers and not turning the ball over themselves in these situations. It's such a big difference from last year to this year, and it just goes to show you the coaching. The coaching is fantastic, And I talk about this with the Eagles, and this is what to me is what's important about this Giants team. I have spent so much this show already comparing the Giants to the Eagles. And everybody talks about the Eagles like they're, the best thing since sliced bread, which they are. They are, top 3, top 2 teams in the National Football League this year. And they haven't even put it all together yet. Yeah. But what I talk about this comparison for the Giants and the Eagles is how it's just a group of players. Just everybody is making 1 or 2 big plays in a game. And when you have a team playing like that, where it's like you're not just relying on one guy to make all of the plays, or you have one guy to make the plays, but then there's nobody else making any plays. Right. It's just such a group of guys. I literally just wrote down names, Saquon Barkley, the Neal. That's a captain play right there. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's a captain play. Daniel Jones doing what he has to do to put the team in the position to win the game. He did it again. Back-to-back weeks, multiple times this season. Julian Love has made play after play after play this year.
Balling.
And it's crazy. Just like you gotta give him some respect and love. Kayvon Thibodeau. This guy was going to be the number 1 pick in the draft at one point last year. And I said this to Awthentik when he fell to you guys. I said, the way that the cookies, the dominoes were falling to you guys when Evan Neal and Thibodeau, both of those guys were top tier draft picks at one point in the college football season. I watched a lot of college football. I knew that this guy was going to be something special, especially off the edge, just the speed and the power combination that he has, and to see him step up and make a play, because we have been talking about it in his first games back about how, he's getting there. He's in the backfield, right? He's getting close, but he hadn't had the play yet. He steps up and makes the big play. And then you got, it's just there's so many different people on the defense that were making the play.
Man.
Dexter Lawrence was 4 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
4 quarterback hits in this game. He's in the backfield. You know, it's just there's so many different players making plays and on this team that it's just that's coaching. That's the team believing in itself. Like those are the scariest teams in the National Football League. Teams that believe in themselves no matter what, and well-coached teams. Because
and to piggyback on that a little bit too, right? Teams that you can't spot the main liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Right now with the New York Giants, and I want to kind of morph this into one of the comments I see in the thread right now. I want to bring this up after I make this one point, right? Somebody on Twitter was telling me that Daniel Jones is the biggest liability on the Giants right now, right? And I immediately responded like, oh, you tripping, right? You tripping. You definitely tripping. But then I started thinking about it, right? Like, who is the liability on the Giants right now? You could say the linebacker core is probably a liability, and you could say some people within the interior of the offensive line is a liability. And we know the wide receiver core, right? They're banged up. We don't got our number one guys out there. But can we call guys like Richie James a liability? I don't think so, because he's stepped up in a spot that he's not expected to be, and he's been producing. Wan'Dale Robinson comes out here in his first game back after injury, and he's producing. Right? You got this kid, Marcus Johnson, who he just got signed to the 53 active roster today, who came in from the practice squad. He's making plays. He had like 3 catches for like 38 yards in this game. So for me now, what it makes me, what I want to shift to is Daniel Jones. And shout out to OG Knockout. I think he brings up some good points here that I think could split a room in a way. In speaking on Daniel Jones, he says, I'm more than happy we're winning, but y'all giving Daniel Jones too much of the credit. The best thing he's doing is playing mistake-free football. Joe Shane isn't going to pay him the bag to stay. Now, it's something that I'm very skeptical about right now, because entering the year, I didn't think that the Giants, no way in hell, as soon as they declined the 5th-year option, I didn't think they were going to try to pay Daniel Jones no matter what he did. When we talked about expectations of what Daniel Jones was going to have to do to earn his job, and we were talking about statistics going into next year, I said Daniel Jones is going to have to put up like a top 3 quarterback type of stat line, right? 30-plus touchdowns, under 15 interceptions, over 4,000 yards. This documented on Twitter. But now, when you see a guy who is simply just doing his job at a high level, because he's not doing just like minuscule work here. Daniel Jones right now in the NFL is 29th in attempts as far as all starting quarterbacks go. So when you think about down the field and all the big plays and all the stuff that, stretches the field that makes quarterbacks look a lot better. Now, I won't say than they really are. It just makes quarterbacks look a lot better. Daniel Jones is not even really given the opportunities to do that. For me, man, I'm just using my eyes. Dating back to last season, this year is proof to me and showing me what Jason Garrett and them were trying to do with Daniel Jones. But Brian Daboll's schemes with Mike Kafka is next level. They're making Daniel Jones have these one-level type of reads where he can just look to one side of the field and make the decision. Daboll was on with Carl Banks on the New York Giants YouTube channel breaking down plays in the theater from this past game with the Ravens. And he was showing, like, look, when Daniel Jones drops back, he's focused on this one safety right here, and he's literally just reading that guy. Wherever he goes is where Daniel's going to look for the window to open up. So we're finally getting to see what Daniel Jones can do within a competent offense so far. And I said this. I said, Brian Daboll's going to do one of two things. He's going to either expose Daniel Jones or he's going to expose Joe Judge and Jason Garrett. So far, he is exposing the coaching staff from last season because Daniel Jones looks good this year. Now, I'm not one that's sitting here saying I'm on record as of 3 or 4 days ago arguing with people on Twitter who were saying Daniel Jones is the main reason that the New York Giants are winning games. I'm not going to sit here and say that. The main reason the New York Giants are winning games starts with coaching. Secondly is defense. And I'll say 2B is Saquon Barkley. Without those 3 things, Daniel Jones is not going to be able to do what he can do, especially with this particular group of wide receivers that we're having to dress out week in and week out. These guys are wide receiver 4, 5 practice squad guys. I'm not like shitting on them and trying to say they don't bring value to the team because they're not making $74 million like a Kenny Galladay is. These guys are on practice squad deals and they're coming up and making plays. So for me, I want to see more, right? But I got to give props where props is due.
Absolutely.
The dude's playing good football. And I think the main thing that OG Knockout says in this statement, that is every fan will take this from their quarterback. Mistake-free football. That's it.
That's I mean, like, if your quarterback is not throwing Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes numbers. The next best thing is mistake-free football because it is a team sport. And by playing mistake-free football, you allow the other players to do what they're supposed to do to help the team win.
Yep.
Like, part of your job of a quarterback is to play mistake-free football because you're the one that holds the ball more than anybody else on the field. So it's up to you to be mistake-free. And for me, the progression is still there. It might not be very easy to see by the stats, but to me, the progression of Daniel Jones from game to game is there. And that's a big difference between the Giants coaching staff and, say, Washington's coaching staff. The Giants are game planning with the pieces that they have. They're playing to the strengths of their players, which is putting their players in the best position to succeed, which is why they're 5-1. Where Washington is so stuck in their own mentality of, this is our system, this is how it has to get done. They don't utilize their players to the best of their capabilities.
And I think people undervalue not making mistakes because it is a flashy passing type of league. You know, I posted that Damian Woody quote where he was like, you know, in modern era football, and I'm paraphrasing it a little bit here, but in modern era football, where people are slinging the rock up and down the field, 350 yards, 400 yards here. You got Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all these different quarterbacks, right? When your quarterback is not lumped into those statistical categories, there are going to be questions from the fans. This is why I completely understand fans who are like, yo, y'all are, Daniel Jones can do no wrong to y'all, right? I understand those fans more than the Daniel Jones homers who are just like, oh, y'all can't spot a franchise quarterback. Y'all don't recognize what he's doing. You know, they're way on that side of how well he's playing.
It's like politics. It
is like politics. And you got to live somewhere in the middle of it. Like, I'm using my eyes. I'm using the stats. I'm using everything I can possibly use to assess this guy. And I told people dating back to last season that the assessment period for Daniel Jones is over for me. I know what he is capable of doing. We've seen this kid run the rock crazy. He can run the RPO in the most sneaky, most deceptive kind of way, almost of all quarterbacks in the NFL, because when you see him on the field, he looks like he's not supposed to be a runner. He can also make a lot of the throws. Where Daniel Jones struggles, where he struggled, I'll say, is throwing the ball outside the hash marks. You saw he didn't have that zip quite that a lot of these other quarterbacks have. This year, I'm seeing those things change. To me, this is the biggest leap that Daniel Jones has taken in his entire career. And I gotta give credit to the coaching staff. Whatever they're doing in practice, they're getting that ball out hot. They're getting it out faster. Entertainer sent me a stat about Daniel Jones and EPA. He's top 3 in the NFL right now. And EPA breaks down, all the circumstances. Look at what Daniel Jones is doing on 3rd and longs. He's converting 3rd and longs where last year, 3rd and 13, I'm like, man, go get the punter ready. Bring him out here. We ready.
Taking a knee on 3rd down.
Right. Quarterback sneaking back to back, bro, on 2nd and 3rd down within your own, in your own red zone, let's call it. We're not seeing those things this year because they have found a way to get Daniel Jones, like, putting his best foot forward. And we're seeing that right now. Can you imagine if we get healthy at the wide receiver position and Daniel Jones now gets this playbook and this scheme really, really, really like under his belt now where he can do some damage? We saw it against the Packers. We saw it against the Ravens. This kid is making some throws in spots where you're like, those are high caliber top 10 type throws. And that's why I tweeted that out today, because I knew people were going to be like, oh, Daniel Jones ain't no top 10 quarterback. What the hell you been doing, man? You're going to get those people who overreact. Make sure to check us out on Mondays, 1 p.m., Giant Overreaction, because that's what people want to do. They see a new name get mentioned in the top 10. If I would have said Marcus Mariota, they would have lost their mind the same exact way, because the stats don't prove it. And if you're not really looking at the games, you're not going to notice the things that Daniel Jones is improving on and excelling on now that he wasn't doing just last year. You dated back to his last, 9 games or whatever? Daniel Jones is like 7-2 or something in his last 9 games? Yeah. Come on, man. Come on. He's balling out.
What's crazy to me, too, is that something that I don't think a lot of people have talked about, right, is the Daniel Jones narrative carried over from last season, right, and was really heavy in the preseason. Remember all the chatter about how he was playing in the preseason and the clips
and a
from
lot of
practice?
That came from FanFest, right?
Yeah.
And in training camp, shout out to Bobby and them from Talking Giants, they were doing a lot of coverage at training camp. And so were a lot of the beat writers. So, like, in the summer, you could literally, like, get all the stats on Daniel Jones in camp. You could see when he threw interceptions. You could see all of that stuff. And people were kind of getting a little bit, just a little bit out of pocket in a way, right? And then you see this guy come out there on the field. It reminds me of Andrew Thomas the previous season because, remember, he was struggling in preseason. The New England Patriots preseason game, he was getting completely dominated. And people were like, oh, man, Andrew Thomas is a bust. Now look at Andrew Thomas. He's one of the best tackles in the NFL. Maybe the best tackle in the NFL. But at the same time, I'm the kind of person, like, I don't want to repeat. I don't use history and be like, this guy's going to do it because that guy already did it.
Yeah,
I don't like to do that. But the reason why I wanted to highlight this comment from OG Knockout, right, is like, I don't fault people that think like this. This is like very relative thinking. Like, if somebody is on the side of like, hey, Daniel Jones ain't doing too much right now, man. I'm liking the wins, but he's not playing lights out football. I'd be like, yeah, there's really no argument there to make. Like, the statistics show it that he's not playing crazy out of his mind Patrick Mahomes football. And you see that on Twitter and you see that on different channels on YouTube, people that are kind of like giving him way too much credit. I'm going to give him his credit, right? I'm not going to give him no extra credit when he didn't stay after school and turn into, some extra credit work. He's doing his job. That's all I can ask from the quarterback position. And I'm an OG, like OG Knockout. Shout out OG Knockout. I'm an OG, so I remember the times when quarterbacks like Phil Simms, quarterbacks like Hostetler, quarterbacks like Mark Rippon, these guys were not the best quarterbacks in the NFL by no means. They just did their job. Simple as that.
And this is the other thing, too, that I think people have to take into consideration when we're talking about Daniel Jones and quarterback situations similar to Daniel Jones in general in the National Football League, is that we're so hooked on the max deal, right?
Yeah.
And the contract year and the max deal, right?
You brought this up.
Because the thing is you have to look at it from both sides. One side being, this is not always going to come down to Daniel Jones not being a franchise quarterback, but it has to be a smart business decision. Okay. So, and maybe they want Daniel Jones at the end of the year, and maybe they offer him a contract, and maybe it's not a max deal, and maybe Daniel Jones doesn't take it, and he wants to test his chances in the free agency. Or it goes the other way where, Daniel Jones takes the Giants to the playoffs, and they offer Daniel Jones a deal that's not necessarily a max deal, but it's not necessarily, a backbreaking deal, or not necessarily a slap in the face deal for a guy who just took a team who won 4 games last year and then took them to the playoffs. So there's going to be some middle ground here that will become a topic of conversation as we get closer to that point. But I think as a Giants fan, it'd be best for you to not worry about Daniel Jones at the end of the season, but to worry about Daniel Jones right now. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the situation at hand.
Yeah, that's definitely real. And I saw Jay Will, Keyshawn, and Max Kellerman. They talked about the contract earlier today, or I believe it was yesterday. And what they were saying was Max Kellerman was saying, I'm ready to pay him right now. Max said, I will pay him right now. My mind is made up. If he can play this kind of football, I'd pay him. And he said 3 years, $75 million. Now, the pushback was, okay, that's $25 a year. The 5th-year option was like right around that. So it's like, would Daniel Jones take a deal like that after proving that he played? Daniel Jones strikes me as a kid that is team first. So I think that if he wins with this team, he'll go in and he'll negotiate the contract as best as he can, but he's not going to fumble the bag, by trying to ask for too much. I think he's going to be able to come to the proper negotiations and get the right contract. And then, hey, maybe the Giants do still draft a quarterback. If they feel like there's a sure shot quarterback in this draft, which there's a ton of them, right? And I'll say this, I was super high on Anthony Richardson. I still am. Dynamic talent, okay? I don't think he's ready to come in the league and win games, though. You can't just throw that kid in with this team after Daniel Jones. Let's say we got an 85% chance to make the playoffs. Let's just say Daniel Jones wins 9 games, whether he goes to the playoffs or not. You don't want to take his legs out from underneath him and just bring in some rookie who's not ready and then have to reset the clock. You got youth on this team in the secondary with guys like McKinney, Julian Love. You got a bunch of youth on this defense. So the window to win with this team is going to come in the next 2 to 3 years probably. Maybe this year for all we know. You don't want to mess that up. If the quarterback is clicking and he's building chemistry with these, call them no-namers at wide receiver, Imagine what happens when you get money next year and you could bring in a guy or draft a guy. Maybe you don't spend first-round draft capital on a quarterback. Maybe you spend first-round draft capital on a real deal wide receiver. You know, I think Drake London is a guy like that the Falcons went out there, they spent some first-round capital on him, and the dude looks like a receiver that's been in the league for a while already. You now have to game plan against a rookie wide receiver when you go play the Falcons. And they got Kyle Pitts over there, which the Giants are building things like that. You got Wan'Dale Robinson, you got Bellinger, you got Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Kadarius Toney, if he could get right. These guys are all under 25 years old. You know, so I see the window. If the Giants can continue to win games like this under Brian Daboll, I'm sure Brian Daboll is smart enough to know that, hey, I can't just pull the plug on my quarterback after he just won us 9, 10 games maybe. I'm not trying to, you know, have too much foresight here and tell you the Giants going to win 10 games. But, man, we got 5 wins after 6 weeks in the NFL season. 11 more games to get 5 wins.
And you guys still get Washington. And that just reminded me, you guys still get Washington 2 times. And I think that's what Paulie, because we missed this one, is referring to here. Shout out to Paulie for the $2 super chat. Says 7 to 8 wins. Damn, he's talking about us. He said, I can't wait for December 4th and 18th. I'm pretty sure those are the Washington Giants
I'm pretty sure
matchups.
the first one is here at FedEx, right?
Yeah.
Whatever goes down,
sure.
bro, we have to go to both of these games.
Yeah, we're doing
We know
that.
we're going FedEx here in D.C., but we got to make that trip up. I already told you, bro, we got to go do that. Like, that's a must. And it's in 3 weeks.
Trip.
Imagine the kind of coverage we could get, man. 3 weeks, 2 games in 3 weeks. I think y'all bye sits in between those 2 games. And I can't wait to see Philly. I really can't wait to see Philly. I think that matchup, I hate that it's so late in the year because it's really going to give us another gauge of where we stand. The Ravens game did a lot of that. I'm so much more confident now after beating the Packers and the Ravens back-to-back. I'm like, yo, you saw the title. The Giants are the real deal. They are the real deal. At this moment in time in the season, they're the real deal. And I'm going to throw this question to you in the chat first because I had this one ready to go as well. And, the graphics department tends to lean towards the New York Giants a little bit more. I mean, we're sitting at 5-1 a little bit, so the questions for us aren't going to be about luck. They're going to be about some other things. But what's your thoughts on this? Are the New York Giants a threat to win the division over the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, but and let me say this. Yes, they are. Okay, and you guys know the Beard has to he can't answer a question as much as I ask Awthentik to answer. Yeah, no one will answer because what New York has done is they've put themselves in a position to be there if something happens to the Eagles. So they've put themselves in a position to be a threat because if Jalen Hurts goes down, God, you know I love my man, the mustache magician Minshew himself. Okay, but the thing is if Jalen Hurts goes down, okay, like if Slay goes down, if they run up against a buzzsaw out of nowhere, like Pittsburgh just beat Tampa Bay and the Colts beat Kansas City, to keep themselves within that 1 game range, is a big difference.
I got you, and I'll read off this super chat while you get that handled. That's wild. That's never happened twice in the show. You back already? All right, so go ahead. Let's get this one from Jukes one time.
Big shout out to Jukes for the $5 super chat. Says he added the W. He said AWATB.
I like that.
Let's say it comes down to Saquon or DJ because we ball out this year with a playoff. Who would you rather keep? I want Saquon. I don't care what the analytics say.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Saquon is more important to this offense for sure. I mean, having a game breaker like that in the backfield, not many teams have that, at the running back position. A lot of people have game breakers at different positions, quarterback, wide receivers. You got the Kansas City Chiefs that have it at the tight end. Even the Baltimore Ravens, they have it at the quarterback. They have it at the tight end. But I think keeping a guy like Saquon in New York is probably most important because we're starting to see a quarterback who struggled, and I've always been telling people that Daniel Jones, to me, especially the first 3 years, he's played ball like an average quarterback, right? But then he's got that little caveat because he can run the ball a little bit. I think if that Daniel Jones has proven that he can win with Brian Daboll, and Daniel Jones is, let's call him an average quarterback at the moment, you could probably supplement that a little bit better. But if you look at the Buffalo Bills' history, look at what they did with Shady McCoy. It's a good example of how they treat star running backs because McCoy He never got cut from the Bills. They ended up just letting him walk. And I saw him talking about that on their podcast. I forget what that joint's called with Brandon Marshall. It's a really good podcast too, man. Saquon had an interview on there earlier this year. I just can't remember the name, but he was talking about it on there. So if they're still in that kind of a realm, then it might be easier for them to let a running back walk and not pay a running back top dollar, especially the way that, the NFL and all teams around the NFL have been treating running backs as of lately. People looking at that Ezekiel Elliott deal going like, oh, I would never do that again.
Yeah, for me, it's very complex. I know there's some people that think of it as an easy question. Oh, keep Saquon. Oh, keep Daniel Jones, right? But it's very complex because that's why they don't have these discussions in the middle of the year, because it really comes down to how things play out throughout the year. If this team goes on a run, and right now we have no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you could say we're early in a season, but I mean, we're almost halfway there. Okay. Yeah. To be 5-1, these next couple of weeks, okay, say you win both games, you're 7-1. Halfway. Man. Say crazy. You lose both of these games, you're still 5-3. You're 2 games above 500 with a whole another half of a season to go. So, you have to see how this plays out. What happens if you make the playoffs? What happens if you make the playoffs? That's one thing. If you don't make the playoffs, that's another way of how this whole contract situation is going to be handled.
Because then both of them might not be as important.
Exactly.
That's the other thing too.
If you make it to the NFC Championship, that's completely different than just making it to the playoffs. So there's tiers here. And I don't know.
I thought about that and got chills, man.
I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure Saquon and Daniel Jones have a good relationship together. They're pretty, solid 2 guys together. I don't know if they're authentic in the beard, Ebony and Ivory, but they're right up there, So
I like that.
My whole thing is the way that this team is built now, okay, and the way that things are unfolding, there might be a good possibility. Both of these guys seem like very intelligent, individuals, okay? Yeah. So to me, there might be an opportunity here, depending on how the season unfolds, to bring both these guys in at the same time and be like, hey,
we need to keep both of y'all on the books.
We need to keep both of y'all, right? Now, let's be realistic. Saquon, we love you to death. We see what you're doing right now. But the fact of the matter is you've been hurt a couple of times in your career, okay? Yep. Daniel, we love what you've done this year, the progression that you've made at the quarterback position, the improvements, you're evolving into a leader. But let's be realistic. You're not putting up numbers that deserve a max contract. But we want to pay you guys, and we want to keep you both. What can we do here to negotiate to make that happen?
I think that's what it's going to come down to.
It sounds like a fairy tale. Don't get me wrong, but this is kind of the fairy tale situation that the New York Giants are in right now.
Though, just so we don't move the goalposts too much, if you're the GM and you got to keep one or and not the other, which one do you keep?
I don't think there's a tougher question out there to ask. Because in any other situation, you keep the quarterback. Like if you just throw the names out, okay? Throw the names out and we just put QB, RB. You keep the quarterback. Why? Because you got to have a quarterback to win in this football league, okay? But if your running back is RB11, the best running back in the National Football League, when Zeke signed his deal, I was down on Zeke at that point. So to me, I thought it was a bad deal from the beginning. Yeah. But with Saquon Barkley, it's like, damn, it's so difficult. I think in the end, you would have to keep. In this particular situation, if my hand was forced and I had to answer, I would probably keep Saquon Barkley.
Yeah,
right now.
I see it's a bit difficult for you to answer, and I think that's because you have a real unbiased take on this, not being a Giants fan. You know what I'm saying? Like with me, I'm a little bit biased because I'm looking at the productivity right now. Saquon Barkley just seems to be a little bit more important to me, as far as the productivity in these first 6 games. But, man, it could change at the end of the year. Who knows? What if this team is winning games on the back of Daniel Jones late in the year to say, hey, we got to get rid of one or the other? You're right. The quarterback is probably going to be more important if you remove the names from the equation. It's going to be tough, man. That's why I don't get paid those dollars, bro. I ain't no GM. It's going to be tough, man. But you're right. And if you put them in a situation where they're in like the championship game,
This is a great point, too, by the Beige Boy, who I believe is a Washington Commanders fan. Shout out to the Beige Boy, a new face here at Awthentik and The Beard. Welcome to the family. Appreciate it. He says Saquon can get a max contract. If New York doesn't give it to him, someone else will. Yeah. DJ needs to understand this. Accept lower than the market and keep your nucleus together. This is a situation where you kind of bring them both in, and it's that sort of situation. So that's a great point.
It's a great point because as a quarterback, especially, even as a running back, but as a quarterback in this league, it's very limited amount of slots for starting quarterbacks. You got to think longevity. Mm-hmm. You got to think, hey, if I continue to play under Brian Daboll, it's going to do nothing but boost me as a quarterback in this league. Even if you sign a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year deal at the quarterback position, and let's say you do 2 years with Brian Daboll, you should understand the value that coach has brought to your game right there. And even if it's, you're on a new team in 4 years and they draft a quarterback, whatever it may be, this is all going to boost your stock as a quarterback. Right now, Daniel Jones ain't going out there getting no max contract from no other team. No. That's just not going to happen. And then you got to look at the other teams around the league that lack quarterback position. You want to end up in Carolina to go die? You feel me?
Or Washington.
or Houston. All these teams that really, their markets and their players and the value that they have right now is not going to make you a better player. You gotta hope that if you don't sign with the New York Giants, that you put yourself in a position where you can actually succeed. Right now, with Brian Daboll and the New York Giants, Daniel Jones has a great window to succeed, and we've seen it through 6 games already.
And there's definitely ways to make your money in a situation that Daniel Jones is in because, with an incentive-laced contract, if you make the playoff sort of thing, those sort of deals.
You don't see that a lot with the quarterback position, but that's a good point you bringing up.
Yeah, you see it more so in like older quarterbacks or free agent veteran signed quarterbacks. I
remember Taysom Hill had a couple in his contract.
Yeah,
Jameis Winston probably had some.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but I mean it's weird. We're in weird uncharted territory here since Awthentik and the Beard has started, and it's making for real life good content. It's not just about the content, but I mean, being a New York Giants fan right now you're experiencing something that you haven't experienced, in quite some years.
Yeah.
And Washington is, we always say, oh, Wentz is Wentzing, but Washington is Washingtoning right now, and so we're just kind of taking things one game at a time. And I think, I don't know, it's crazy to think about how much of a difference a coach makes. We talk about it a lot of times, and a lot of times the coaching difference that some people want to point to are these hotshot young guys and their innovative playbooks and their 50-point games.
Cliff Kingsbury's of the world.
Yeah, but you don't think about head coaches like Daboll who just complete and it is like a morph. You've won more games already this year than you did all of last year.
Yeah.
So
we're going to get to the point where we're going to win more games than the Joe Judge regime won in their entire tenure with the Giants. We about to get there. Watch. And that's going to look crazy.
Yeah. Oh, well, Beige Boy says we're ash burning. Yeah.
Ash burning. I like that. Yeah, you got to be from around here to get that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Beige Boy, man. Appreciate you pulling up, man, and everybody in the chat, man. This was a good vibe on this one. I told the Beard we were going to go for about an hour. Conversation got to popping right off the bat with the quarterback talk around the league. Right when we started the podcast, then talking about the Commanders' W against the Bears. And I forgot that Keyshawn clip that I wanted to pull up, but Keyshawn was pretty much saying, hey, bro, the ball hit you in the hands, you better catch that football. Talking about,
I mean, that's the way we grew up. We grew up with if it hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. There's no other excuses, I did want to give a big shout out because, we haven't talked about him that much. I forgot to give him a shout out, but my man Forrest had another monster play on the goal line when he hit Justin Fields and stopped him from getting in on one of those drives early in the game. Yeah, so just
I almost took away his transition graphic the other day. I'm like, bro, you ain't made no play since like week 1, week 2, bro. What's going on? But I left it up there because of that.
We're gonna see. Thursday night's gonna be an interesting show.
I'm so upset that the Washington games and the Philly games are so far out. I want that blood, bro. I want that in division blood right now. We sitting at
maybe you don't. Maybe you don't.
Nah, we do, bro.
Maybe our blood. I don't know about Philly.
I'm ready for Philly. I'm ready.
But listen, you guys are getting better.
Overhyped.
You guys are getting better.
I want to know where we stand right now, Beard. I want to know where we stand right now in the division.
I feel like you just beat the Vikings. You just beat the Packers and the Ravens, man.
That's why I'm up here, man. Right before we started the podcast, I was ashing out the J pretty much, bro. That's why I'm up here, bro. Like straight up, because I'm ready for these division games. It's the first time the New York Giants started off with their first 5 games out of division as W's ever.
Yeah, I saw that on Gino Reaction. I thought that was a very interesting stat too.
Eagles. And they talking. Them Eagles fans is talking right now. If we go in there and we could shock the Eagles, the landscape of the NFC East is going to completely change. ESPN Power Rankings came out today. The Eagles was at number 1 or number 2. The Cowboys was at number 6, and the Giants was at number 5. Buffalo was 1. Yep.
Who do you guys have this week again?
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys are already 3. Is that still the line? I got it.
It was 3 last I saw. It opened at 2.5.
Which is crazy to me that it went to 3. And
yeah, that was really interesting. And then I think we got Texans, Seahawks, and there's one more other winnable game in that stretch. I forget the last one.
You guys.
Yeah, Eagles too. Eagles' schedule is fluffy, super fluffy. But we gonna see.
Still 3 right now. You guys are still 3. We're 5.5 point underdogs at home. So Green Bay.
Green. Yeah, I mean that's not bad. It's kind of generous to y'all, actually, man. I think Green Bay after 2 losses, Green Bay. If Green Bay lose to y'all, I'm done with them. It's a wrap.
Can you imagine they're gonna go?
Yeah,
like
y'all got a shot though.
Yeah, and listen. This is one thing too. I want to before we end the show. I want to put this out there. Every game is a winnable game.
Of course.
Okay. I know some people are out there like, oh, this is the winnable game. Listen, every game is a winnable game.
Every game is winnable.
And
favorable. I'm about to start using favorable.
I like that.
Because Green Bay, it's a favorable win against Washington. But if y'all go out there and play to y'all capabilities like what we saw in week 1, y'all gonna hang with them. They not putting up a lot of points right now. Y'all just need y'all offense to get it clicking. That performance y'all put out there against the Bears on a Thursday night, you can't have another one of those.
Listen, I mean, look, hey, you guys called. You guys have been begging for it. You guys wanted Heineke, okay? So let's go. I want to see some Heineke magic.
Yeah, I'm ready for it, man. If not, Heineke's a decent quarterback, man.
If they don't, listen, I don't want to give away the roadmap yet, but
facts.
I'm gonna need a Old English. I'm gonna need a St. Ides. I'm gonna need a 211.
211.
That's a 40. That's all. You don't get the RTDB until you get to 40.
See, and that might be why y'all offense might look a little bit better with Taylor Heineke because the expectation is lower, and they coaching wise, it forced you to use that running game to get that clicking first, right? And then everything else operates off of that, which is where I think Taylor Heineke can be extremely effective is when he has defenses off balance. You start putting up an extra man in the box trying to stop the run, Taylor Heineke find a way to escape the pocket and make plays. We gonna see, man. For y'all, I think it's a great thing. You get to gauge what the quarterback position is really all about now. You've seen Carson Wentz now through 6 games.
There's somebody who said, blue check mark, said that you might not see Carson Wentz play another game in Washington.
You might not. Y'all can cut him next year with 0 dead cap hit. So if Taylor Heineke could find himself on an inkling of a kind of a run like Cooper Rush just did, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
And if he doesn't, they might just play Sam Howell because they need to know if they have anything in him.
Yeah, but
you don't want Carson to play 70% of your snaps because then your third round turns into second round.
Think about it. Y'all didn't bring in the rook sitting at 2-4. It's going to get ugly for us to see him. That's what I'll say. You're going to have to lose a lot of games for us to see how.
Let's say so Heineke. Let's say Heineke plays the next 4, goes 1-3.
Then you might see.
Then we're 3-7.
That's going to be tough, bro. That you get to 8 losses, you done. You done. Yeah. Ain't no way you're going to go on no streak where you win like 6-7 games in a row. It's over.
Oh, NFC East basically too in the back end.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So for me, it's like it's a great way to gauge everything. You'll be able to see Taylor Heineke next week against what's supposed to be a pretty good defense in the Green Bay Packers. You'll see him a couple more weeks because Carson Wentz is a thumb injury, right?
It's a finger, not the thumb.
So it's not the thumb. That does help out a little bit because
4 to 6 is what they're saying.
4 to 6. Yeah, when it's that thumb, bro, you know how. Remember when you would jam your thumb back in the day? How long that joint would take to heal? Like that, my thumb started throbbing when I just started thinking about it.
I was gonna say you had a thumb injury for a long time from when we were playing basketball.
Yeah, dog. Like I went up for the rebound and somebody just came down on my thumb. My thumb was hurt for like a good 15, 16 weeks. My thumb was like hurt.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, man. And you can't grip when you lose the thumb. So being that it's one of the top fingers, that is going to be a little bit better. Like if it's like his pinky or his ring finger, you could do. I mean, you seen Odell Beckham, man. Odell was catching the best catch in NFL history with 3 fingers, bro. you know what it is, man. But I like it. I'm looking forward to it, man. Especially because we winning, man. So we'll see, man. We'll see what it is, man. And I think Heineke can do some things. And they people in the chat let us know about the podcast from Brandon Marshall earlier. I did want to say that. It was I always want to say
like a wine something.
I wanted to say it's the pivot. I always want to say it's the pivot, but that's Ryan Clark's joint. It's I'm just scrolling back so I could see it because I Am Athlete. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a solid podcast, man. They give an Authentic and the Beard a run for their money. For sure.
I could listen to Brandon Marshall talk all the time. That dude is
for a dude who was dealing with the mental health stuff, like
he's
I
very.
Really
that's why to me I find it intriguing because it's a different perspective, you know.
Yeah, it definitely is, and he's well spoken, man. I love their podcast, man. And the homie, I forget the homie's name, the light skinned dude with the dreads on that joint. He's always talking about these wild extravaganzas he be going on with his wife to like nudist beaches and stuff like that. They be on that show wild, bro. He was like, Saquon, you want to come with us one time? Saquon was like, nah, no disrespect or nothing, but I'm not, that I don't float that way pretty much. It was pretty funny. But I mean, I think we've been on here for about 2 hours, man. This was a good, solid take. And a Waterfly was asking if it's ginger ale in the cup. Not today, man. It's just a little water. I've been on a coffee trip. If you a coffee drinker, man, whipped cream in the coffee is a game changer right now. I'm every morning, 2 cups now, whipped cream, pumpkin spice. I got a whole Starbucks vibe going on over there.
I tried to go find Josie this Italian coffee syrup, pumpkin spice flavor. They had it at the Marshalls.
At the Marshalls.
We went to Marshalls and they were sold out.
Yeah, Marshalls will do that to you too.
And then I tried to go yesterday. I was at the grocery store, Target, sold out. They ain't even have pumpkin spice cream.
Anything.
Nothing pumpkin spice. Everything gone.
I got the pumpkin spice creamer. It just ran out, and the pumpkin spice whipped cream. It's a match made in heaven. I'm a big coffee drinker too. Every day I drink coffee, and it's like I'm on a whole new vibe right now. I get to put less creamer, more whipped cream. Yeah, it's a vibe, man. It's definitely a vibe. But anything else you want to put a little button on this conversation with, man? As far as
I want to give a big shout out to Jux.
My man,
for the $2 super chat. Say Brandon Marshall confessed he played in the playoffs.
Did he? I thought he never played in a playoff game. Ain't that crazy though? All them numbers Brandon Marshall was putting up, he wasn't in the playoffs.
Broncos, he never played in the playoffs.
Yeah, he never played in the playoffs. Jets, he was putting up big numbers that first year with the Jets.
Broncos, Bears,
New York Giants. At one point in fantasy, Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall it was it. If you had that stack, it was a wrap. Times change, man. Times definitely change, man. But salute to all y'all, man, for rocking with us, man. 2.5 hours almost here, man. This was a good vibe, man. Make sure y'all pull up on Thursday. We'll have a preview show lined up for y'all, man. That's going to be a good one, man. We got some big games coming up, man. The Giants against Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's going to be a hard matchup to gauge and see where the Giants are going to be able to find their angles to get that victory. Definitely going to start with the defense on that one for sure, man. And Washington Commanders, man, taking on another tough one against them Green Bay Packers, man. Barely snuck out against the Chicago Bears. Another same one from the NFC North, I believe that is, with the Packers and the Bears.
You know me, I like to call it the NFC Central.
Yeah, the NFC Central. Keyshawn did that the other day on their show. I thought that was funny too, man. But a big salute to y'all, man, for pulling up and rocking with us. We had over 100 in the building for most of the show, man. The growth of the channel is just it's very humbling, man, and just a bit overwhelming, man, the way that the channel has been growing. I'm going to try to get out a couple more pre-recorded videos this week, so keep your eyes out for those. And the Beard, we still working on the banter with the Beard vibes, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that, man. And y'all know what it is over here, man. Keep raising that bar, man. Keep living those dreams, man. The universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Shout out to the God. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, my man Combat Jack Aishin in the building. Y'all know what it is. Definitely pull up on us, man. 7 p.m. Thursday. We'll see y'all. I see the biceps in the chat, man. It's all love. Y'all know what it is, man. Until Thursday and we get to those games, man, y'all be good. Live it up, man. Live it up. Use these days. Make them count, y'all. We'll see y'all on Thursday.
Peace.